subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
To save Roger. But in the end, he gave up this idea. He wanted to see how this ninja, who had mastered the mysterious ninjutsu, would resolve the situation in front of him. 30 meters, 20 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters when Roger was about to fall into the sea, he seemed to have landed on the ground and stood firmly on the sea's surface. If not for the ripples on the sea's surface under his feet, Tony would forget they were still at sea. How'd he do it? The scene in front of him was unbelievable. It was very unscientific. Looking at Roger, standing on the sea's surface, Tony thought of some myths and legends. However, he quickly threw these strange thoughts to the back of his mind, preparing to let Roger experience the power of science and technology. Without hesitation or probing, Tony flew towards Roger and began his attack. He can rely on his aerial superiority to attack from a long distance, but he chose the most straightforward and crudest close combat. Looks like Roger has been underestimated. For Tony, who was flying at full speed, a distance of tens of meters could be crossed instantly. After arriving in front of Roger at lightning speed, Tony swung his right fist and punched Roger in the chest. Bang! Tony's right fist hit Roger without any suspense, but Roger turned into a cloud of smoke and quickly dissipated into the air. Before he could figure out what was happening, a heart-wrenching pain came from his left shoulder. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Tony felt like a rifle had hit him on his left shoulder, and his entire left arm and shoulder felt unbearable pain. Did I get shot? Just as this thought surfaced, Tony denied it. Wearing Mark III, even if a rifle hit him, he would not feel such pain from such a distance. Tony turned his head to look at his left shoulder, and then he was stunned. His entire body was in a daze, as if he had lost his soul, maintaining his flying posture. Chapter 24, Water Gun Technique. A finger-sized hole appeared on Mark III's left shoulder. From time to time, sparks would appear from within the hole. Mark III's left shoulder was penetrated. As the creator of Mark III, Tony was evident in what kind of defensive ability Mark III possessed. The Mark III's primary material was gold titanium alloy, possessing an extremely high defensive ability. Even if it were barraged by a 7.62mm rifle bullet for an extended period, it would not cause any noticeable damage. However, this type of enhanced composite armor possessed an extremely high defense ability that was penetrated instantly. Until now, Tony still did not know how he had been hit, and he also did not know what had hit him. Tony suddenly turned around and saw Roger, whose fingers were pointed like a gun. You lost. Roger pointed at Tony's forehead with his right index finger, indicating that the battle had been decided. Tony wanted to retort, but the pain from his left shoulder made him shut his mouth silently. Then, without saying a word, he flew back to the garage. Looking at Tony's disappearing figure, Roger sighed slightly. If Tony was not so careless, or if he was a little more serious, this battle would have lasted a little longer. But it is evident that Tony, wearing Mark III, did not do this. In this battle, Roger used 3 ninjutsus: Flying Thunder God Technique, Shadow Clone Technique, and Water Release Water Gun Technique, which he rarely used in battle. Water Gun Technique was a secret ninjutsu passed down from generation to generation in the Zuki clan, and was also the only water ninjutsu that Roger currently had. The liquid bullet that Water Gun Technique shot out had extreme penetrating power, and its destructive power was very impressive, able to pierce through most objects. The liquid bullet that had just pierced through Mark III's left shoulder was the liquid bullet that Water Gun Technique shot out. While observing Mark III in the garage, Roger left Flying Thunder God's formula behind on Mark III. When he used Flying Thunder God Technique to fly directly in front of Tony, it was not his original body but his shadow clone. If Tony had used many different methods to scan, he might have discovered that the Roger standing on the sea surface was not a real human. However, Tony did not do this. Instead, he flew directly towards the shadow clone technique, which was standing on the sea surface, and punched this shadow clone technique. When Tony broke the shadow clone, the Real Roger came to his back through Flying Thunder God technique. Then he instantly used water gun technique and pierced through Mark III's left shoulder. After returning to the garage, Tony immediately took off the Mark III and looked at his left shoulder. After seeing the injury on his left shoulder with his own eyes, Tony's face became really pale. The liquid bullet that water gun technique shot out did not hit his left shoulder, but just grazed it, leaving a very obvious mark on his left shoulder. Was it only a scratch? At the moment of his injury, Tony thought his left shoulder had been completely pierced, which was why he felt such pain at such a close distance. But reality proved that this was just his imagination. When he used water gun technique, Roger deliberately avoided Tony's shoulder. The liquid bullet only brushed past Tony's shoulder, not his shoulder. After all, if it pierced through Tony's shoulder, the time he received the spoils of war would be significantly delayed. Looking at the wound on his left shoulder, Tony sighed in frustration. If he had understood this then, perhaps he would not have lost so quickly and still have had a chance to counterattack. However, Tony soon thought of the scene where Roger pointed at his forehead with his right index finger. Are you trying to tell me that if the target were my forehead, I would have died a long time ago? After laughing bitterly, Tony came in front of Mark III. He removed the entire left shoulder of Mark III and placed it on his workbench. Roger appeared in the garage just as Tony was about to study the hole on Mark III's left shoulder. It seems that you have recovered. I thought you would be bedridden for a while. Looking at Tony, who was about to start studying, Roger said with slight relief, "This time I was too impulsive. Next time, I will not give you such a chance." Although Mark III did not block Roger's attack, Tony was evident that the real reason for his defeat was not Mark III, but his carelessness. I hope so. By the way, remember to inform me after you've completed the Mark III that I want. I'm still very interested in steel armor, like the Mark III. After saying that, Roger's figure once again disappeared in front of Tony, as if the person talking to him just now was just a phantom. I will definitely win next time. Technology will prevail, Tony said silently in his heart, while putting his attention back on Mark III's left shoulder. Although he still did not know what had pierced through Mark III's left shoulder, he was sure he would be able to figure out why. This was a genius's confidence and a top inventor's spirit. Because Tony had yet to pay, the mission in the system was still in an incomplete state. Roger was very confident in Tony's work efficiency. As long as nothing unexpected happened, it would not take long for Tony to complete the commission reward. After returning to the office, Roger took out a rubber ball and began practicing with his Rasengan again. Before practicing Rasengan, he specially used the sensing technique's ability to sense the current position of the Punisher. Several days had passed since the day of the challenge was set, but during this period, the Punisher did not launch any attacks, and they had not even approached Roger's office. The nearest Frank ever came was several kilometers away from the office. Since Frank did not show any signs of attacking for a while, Roger did not have to worry too much about Frank making any big scene or tricks. After practicing seriously for several hours, the ball in Roger's hand finally showed signs of breaking. Bang! Under Roger's continuous efforts, the ball in his right hand collapsed and let out a sound that was not loud, but enough to make him happy. When the ball broke, Roger did not rest, but directly started the fourth stage of practice. Because there was no obstruction, Erica finally saw the thing in Roger's hand. It was a chakra ball emitting a light blue light. Looking closely, one could see the chakra flowing in different directions. "What is this?" Erica asked in confusion when looking at the chakra ball in Roger's hand. "This is a chakra ball, an incomplete ninjutsu. The energy flowing inside it is called chakra." Chapter 25. Chase Ninja. Roger simply explained the chakra ball in his hand. He was not worried about Erica or others being able to understand the nature of ninjutsu or chakra from these simple descriptions. Knowing the source of a person's strength and being able to resist this person's strength were two completely different things. Like the future Iron Man, everyone knew that Tony relied on the high-tech steel armor for extraordinary strength. But people who could not beat him, even if they knew this, still could not beat him. Moreover, Roger had no intention of hiding his ability. Even if you know that chakra is the source of my power, even if you know all the ninjutsu I know, even if you know the fighting style that I am good at, then what is the difference? Rather than carefully hiding his ability, it is better to think of a way to improve his strength further. If he has enough strength, why worry about those spirits and ghosts plotting and scheming? Imitation is the best type of flattery. Being unparalleled is my ninja way. Not long after Roger explained to Erica, the chakra ball in his hand dissipated into the air, turning into streams of air. Compared to the first 3 stages, the 4th stage of Reencarnation's practice was more difficult. It was not challenging to condense the chakra in her hand, but it wasn't easy to maintain and solidify it for a long time. Reencarnation is only a ball of air. If it could not be maintained and solidified for a long time, it would be like a water ball broken with a single stab and does not have real combat value. Erica did not know what chakra was, and she also did not know what Reencarnation was. But she saw something called power on this chakra ball. A ninja with chakra is a real ninja. For some reason, this thought suddenly popped up in Erica's mind. It dissipated again and again, taking shape over and over again. Every failure would consume a portion of Roger's chakra. 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times. Roger could not remember how many times he had practiced it. The only feeling he had now was that the chakra in his body was about to reach its limit. This was also the first time he experienced chakra exhaustion. This will be the last time, whether it succeeds or not. I will end here today. Just like the previous practice, the last attempt failed without a hitch. There was no miracle born because it was the last time. After moving his stiff body for a while, Roger looked up at the clock on the wall. It was 3:45 in the morning. Just as he was planning to use the last of his chakra to send Flying Thunder God technique back home, he vaguely heard the faint sounds of fighting coming from the alley below the office. As a weapon master, although the sound of fighting was feeble, he could immediately tell that it was the sound of the katana's impact. It was not strange to hear gunshots in a place like New York. However, in the middle of the night, the only ones who would use katana to fight were the Hand, who was famous for being a crazy ninja. Could it really be the Hand's crazy ninja? Driven by curiosity, he came to the window and looked in the direction of the fighting sound. The ones fighting in the alley below the office were indeed ninjas, but they were not the Hand ninjas he imagined. The one fighting was none other than Erica, who had just become an assistant in the office. Erica dressed like a working woman in the workplace during the day, but what she's doing now bears no resemblance to a working woman. Erica, holding a katana, was fighting against 3 enemies wearing different colored ninja suits. After looking at them for a dozen seconds, Roger noticed something was wrong. Whether it was Erica or the 3 unknown fellows in front of him, although their attacks seemed to be extremely fierce and every move was aimed at their vital points, Roger did not see any killing intent from them. Although he did not know what relationship Erica had with the 3 fellows in front of him, as Erica's current boss, Roger felt that it was necessary for him to go down. Erica, stop. You are no match for the 3 of us. If you refuse to admit your mistakes, don't blame us for being merciless. Erica, come back with us. We can slowly solve the Hand's problems. Roger had just arrived in the small alley when he heard the words of the 3 ninjas. At the same time, he figured out the origin of the 3 people. No one else would say such words to Erica other than chased people. Erica acted as if she didn't hear the words of the 3 people, and her attacks became sharper. At the same time, she silently prepared to retreat. However, the 3 chased ninjas quickly noticed Erica's plan. They no longer held back and instantly forced Erica into a disadvantageous situation. When Erica was about to be defeated and then forcibly taken away, Roger, who had stayed in the alley shadows for a while, finally came out. Do chase people only bully those who are alone? Moreover, they bully a woman. Don't you feel ashamed? Although not much chakra was left in his body, Roger still did not run from chased 3 ninjas. Through his observation just now, he was 100% sure that even if he didn't use chakra, the 3 ninjas of Chased were no match for him at all. Who are you? Since you know we are from Chased, how dare you speak out in mockery? One of the men in dark yellow ninja clothes said sternly. Who am I? I am Erica's boss. You attack my assistant under my office. Aren't you, Chased? A little too arrogant, Roger said as he walked. When he finished speaking, he just came to Erica's side and took the katana from Erica. If you want to take Erica away, beat me first, Or is it that your chase people only dare to bully women with your numbers? After being ridiculed by Roger one after another, even those who did not have a temper could not help but feel a bit angry. You don't know the difference between heaven and earth. Don't think that you can insult Chaste just because you know some martial arts. The one who spoke was still the guy wearing the dark yellow ninja suit. Kid, my name is, just as he was about to register, Roger interrupted him in time. I'm not interested in knowing the names of some small characters. Your names are not worthy of a place in my memory. You asked for death. It was estimated that this chaste ninja had never been ridiculed like this before. After hearing Roger's words, his already somewhat suppressed anger completely erupted. He rushed towards Roger like an angry beast. The katana in his hand was also like lightning, directly slashing towards Roger's head. It had an imposing manner of wanting to cut off Roger's head. Chapter 26. Old Man Stick. Just as this chaste ninja's katana was about to hit Roger, the katana in Roger's hand suddenly arrived in front of him and hit his chest before he could react. Shit! The moment Roger's katana cut through his skin, this chaste ninja felt an extremely menacing aura. Relying on the robust control he had gained from years of hard training, he forcefully stopped his attack and jumped back immediately. Even so, a blade scar dozens of centimeters long still appeared on his chest. Bright red blood continuously gushed out from the massive wound. If he dodged a little slower, the katana in Roger's hand would cut his throat without any suspense, completing the killing blow. Roger's attack shocked the injured chaste ninja and made the expression of the two ninjas behind him extremely tense. As companions of the same organization, they knew very well what kind of strength this injured ninja had. Out of the three of them, the injured ninja was the strongest and the most impulsive. You managed to avoid it. It seems like you're slightly stronger than hand ninjas. The hands ninja usually only needs one slash. As for you, you only have about 2 slashes. Before he made a move, these 3 ninjas would only think that he did not know the difference between heaven and earth. But at this time, they did not look down on him and regarded him as the most dangerous enemy. The kind of enemy that could take their lives at any time. This time, we admit defeat, but do you really want to be enemies with Chaste? Another chaste ninja said in a calm tone, I have always hated those guys who use their background when they couldn't win. They have lost, but they still have to leave some face for themselves. Moreover, you can't represent Chaste. The one behind you is more likely to be the one representing Chaste. After saying that, Roger pointed at the dark end of the alley behind them with a blood-caked katana. Erica and the 3 chaste ninjas didn't realize that a person was hiding at the end of the alley. After hearing Roger's words, they carefully observe the dark end of the alley, and they hear a faint sound of dripping water. A man wearing light green clothes and holding a long stick in his hand walked out from the dark alley. Although it was late at night, he wore a pair of sunglasses and a light green hat that made Roger want to make fun of him. This man with white hair was none other than Chase's leader, Erica, and Daredevil's master, Old Man Stick. Erica belongs to Chaste. No one can stop us from taking her back. After walking out from the dark end of the alley, the old man walked directly to a place more than 2 meters away from Roger and said in a very confident tone, no one can take Erica by force as long as she doesn't want to. Although the old man was a super first-class grandmaster of combat in this world, Roger's tone was as stern as ever. Trying to take Erica away from him by force with just Chase's name? What a joke. Young man, your skills are not bad. I will give you a chance now. As long as you are willing to join Chaste, I can forgive your actions just now. Looking at the old man's natural expression, Roger even suspected that he had just misheard. As long as he joined Chaste, he would forgive what he had just done. Is this guy already senile? Where did his confidence come from? Forgive me for what I just did? Now I'd like to see what happens if you don't forgive me. Roger now had sufficient reason to doubt the guys who had stayed in these strange organizations for a long time. His brain doesn't seem to function properly. If that's the case, go to hell and repent. As soon as he finished speaking, the staff in his hand arrived in front of Roger. Just as the staff was about to hit Roger's head, a katana stained with blood blocked the staff in front of him. Bang! A violent crash resounded through the entire alley. The intense wind pressure from the staff swept across Roger like a hurricane, sending the scattered papers and garbage bags flying. The staff was worthy of being the world's first-class grandmaster of combat tools of the trade. A simple sweep of the staff gave him an unstoppable momentum. However, Roger was not an ordinary person either. When a staff is swung for an attack, he was keenly aware of the staff's power and thus made a corresponding defense. When he saw that Roger had blocked his rod without any change in expression, the old man's old voice rang out again. "The three of you, leave this alley." The old man did not explain the reason and did not need to explain the cause. Everyone present had rich combat experience and knew what the old man wanted to do when they heard it. Clear the area. Without any hesitation, the three ninjas of Chaste left the alley and disappeared from Roger's sight. Erica did not leave. She still stayed in the alley and silently retreated more than 10 meters. If she were not brainwashed by the hand, Erica would not hesitate to follow the old man's words. But now, she would not listen to anyone's orders. She would only obey her own choice. After noticing that Erica had not left, the old man's face, which already had many wrinkles, showed dissatisfaction. As the leader of Chaste, he was an existence that kept his word. No one could disobey his orders. In his opinion, Erica was still a member of Chaste, but now Erica brazenly violated his orders, which made him feel like his authority was challenged. "Old man, do you still want to fight? I don't have much time to waste with you." As the old man was considering how to punish Erica, who violated his order, Roger's voice pulled him back to reality. Roger was not interested in knowing what the old man was thinking. He was willing to cooperate with the old man to clear the field to see what kind of ability this Grandmaster of Combat had. Roger's close combat skills were not weak and could even be considered top-notch. However, he had always wanted to know what kind of realm his fighting skills had reached. Although he had already thought of this, his luck was horrible. He had never met those true fighting masters. However, the old man's appearance made him see the light on achieving his wish. The fighting skill of the old man was definitely at the top level in the world. It was perfect for testing his fighting skills. Chapter 27, Battle in the Dark Alley. Roger took the initiative to attack without waiting for old man's stick to answer. Defense was never something he liked to do. Offense is the best defense. For Roger, a distance of a few meters could be traveled in an instant. Although old man's stick is blind, his combat instinct as a grandmaster of combat protected him. Bang! His staff blocked Roger's lightning-fast strike. However, without any hesitation, he turned his wrist lightly. The katana seemed to have a life of its own as it attacked old man's stick from another angle. After blocking Roger's first strike, old man's stick knew that Roger's attack was not limited to this. As a blind person, he became the world's top fighting master. In terms of close combat, old man's stick possessed a talent far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become a master in the field of blind fighting. When the katana in Roger's hand suddenly changed its trajectory, the old man took a step back. At the same time, he changed his two-handed staff into a one-handed staff. The old man's right hand slid accurately to the middle of the long rod, using the walking rod like a polearm. Roger's attack was blocked by the old man again. However, he did not expect to be able to injure the old man's stick within 1 or 2 strikes. If he could so easily strike the old man's stick, then the old man's stick would not have been able to survive under the hand's attack, much less become Chaste leader. What Roger wanted from the start was not to injure the old man's stick, but to use his attack to force old man's stick to retreat. Even if the old man's stick had only taken 1 step back, the battle rhythm already flowed within his hand. When the old man took a step back due to his defense, Roger's posture changed and became unpredictable. If his initial posture of holding the sword was the most orthodox and conventional way, now he is using the katana in his hand as if it were a dagger. Stab, stab, hook, chop. Chop. The katana in Roger's hand kept flying up and down, drawing a fierce or strange arc. He had never expected Roger's combat style to be so wild and unruly. He, who was in the center of Roger's attack, was like a small fishing boat in a stormy sea and could be completely swallowed up by the waves that surged out of nowhere at any time. If not for his decades of rich combat experience, under Roger's reckless and violent attack, the old man would have been hit again and again by the katana. At this time, the old man is no longer looking down on Roger, treating him as the most dangerous and terrifying opponent. Although he wasn't injured yet, he knew very well that if he continued to stay within the range of Roger's attack, it wouldn't be long before his movements became slower due to decreased physical strength. From then on, he would no longer be able to block Roger's attack. Although the old man wanted to distance himself and put himself in the most suitable battle distance, Roger didn't give him the slightest chance. No matter how he retreated, Roger would always follow him like a mosquito, not giving him any chance to distance himself. After being attacked by Roger dozens of times like a sandbag, the old man finally decided, "Even if you slash me, I'll get out of your attack range." With this thought in mind, the old man stopped blindly defending and began to try to counterattack. Roger immediately noticed the old man's thoughts, but he still did not intend to slow down his attack. The old man's idea was perfect, and he tried to use some minor injuries as a price to get rid of his attack. However, his attack was not something that could be dodged with just a few minor injuries. If the old man had such thoughts, he would not mind taking the old man away with a single slash. Erica, who was on the other side of the alley, stared at the battle between Roger and Old Man Stick. Her face became more and more serious. She always thought the gap between her and Roger was only because Roger had mastered ninjutsu. However, after seeing Roger's level of combat at this time, she understood that in the hands building, Roger did not use his full strength at all. If Roger at that time was like now, then she couldn't exchange so many blows with Roger. Under this level of attack, she estimated that she would not even be able to block 10 moves. No, she could only block 5 slashes at most. As a student of the Old Man Stick, Erica knew very well what kind of strength the Old Man Stick had. But even the Old Man Stick, who had far more strength than her, was suppressed by Roger to the point where he couldn't even fight back. He could only helplessly choose to defend. At first, Roger only wanted to test what kind of realm his fighting skill had reached through the old staff member. But when Old Man Stick blocked all his attacks with a watertight defense, he slowly became excited. This feeling was completely different from when Black Sky fought. Although Black Sky also had a human body, his fighting style was completely different from a human's. When fighting with Black Sky, Roger did not feel he was fighting with a human. He only felt that he was fighting with a humanoid beast. However, at this time, it was completely different. The old man had a human body, and the fighting techniques he displayed were all actions a human body could do. Therefore, Roger could learn many fighting techniques from the old man when fighting with the old man. This kind of battle that could fully display one's fighting skills was the most exciting game in the world for people who like to fight. In the past, Roger did not understand why some people would become pure fighting maniacs. But now, not only did he understand entirely, but he also had the trend of developing in this direction. Regardless of the consequences, regardless of life or death, he would bet his life and everything he had. He would use everything he had to fight a spectacular battle like this. Even if he lost this battle, he would still be able to walk into hell with a smile on his face. This was the highest honor of a warrior. As Roger became more and more excited, Old Man Stick became more and more shocked. The old man could feel that his physical strength was rapidly declining. Soon, his physical strength would reach a critical point, and then he would no longer be able to keep up with Roger's rhythm. However, Roger seemed to do this effortlessly. The speed and frequency of his attacks did not decrease at all. Instead, they became faster and fiercer. If this goes on, I will really die in this kid's hands. Old Man Stick made a shocking conclusion. Just as the old man was thinking about how to leave this place alive, a scene that none of them had expected happened. Clang! After using all his strength, the katana in Roger's hand came to the brink of collapse and was blasted off by Old Man Stick's staff. Chapter 28. Raising Gan. Old Man Stick, who had been waiting for a chance to counterattack, did not hesitate and immediately swung his staff at Roger. Old Man Stick's attack was without warning. Just as the long staff nicked by the katana was about to hit Roger's head, Roger used the remaining half of the katana in his hand to block the attack trajectory of the long staff. However, Roger did not feel any force from the broken katana. Although Old Man Stick looked like he immediately launched a counterattack, this was just a feint. Just as Roger was about to use his broken katana to block the staff, Old Man Stick decisively withdrew his staff and quickly retreated 5 or 6 meters. After the battle, just now, that he almost couldn't keep up with his thoughts, Old Man Stick had already had a lot of psychological trauma towards Roger. Therefore, he would instead give up the possible attack and take this opportunity to open up a distance, giving himself a space suitable for the staff's power. Roger did not follow up like before. After the katana broke, his gradually excited fighting mood quickly cooled down, and he no longer had the same state of mind as before. This kind of feeling of being suddenly interrupted because of an accident was very uncomfortable. Roger sighed helplessly. There are some things that, once interrupted, can never be recovered from before. Therefore, he no longer plans to continue fighting with Old Man Stick. Go away. I'm no longer in the mood for a fight. While speaking, Roger threw away the broken katana in his hand, then directly turned around and left, not caring if Old Man Stick would take the opportunity to attack him. If Old Man Stick did this, he would let Old Man Stick experience the power of ninjutsu. Although he was somewhat unhappy with Roger's tone, Old Man Stick finally put away the long rod and disappeared at the end of the dark alley. If this happens again, you can tell me. You are now a company member, and anyone looking for trouble with you is looking for trouble with the company. After saying that, Roger directly used Flying Thunder God technique and disappeared before Erica. Although the battle with Old Man Stick didn't last for a long time, it also consumed a lot of his physical strength. If he hadn't used chakra to strengthen his body before, he wouldn't have been able to maintain that high-intensity and high-frequency attack. After practicing for a day, Reencarnacion had already consumed a lot of stamina. In addition to the battle with Old Man Stick, he was in the weakest state of his body. If the Punisher launched an attack now, his day would be incredibly tiring. For safety reasons, he used sensing technique and silently sensed the Punisher's current location. It was okay if he didn't sense it. After sensing the Punisher's current location, a puzzled expression appeared on his face. Why'd he go there? Frank the Punisher did not leave New York. He was now on the roof of a building that he had just been to a while ago, the Chrysler Building. Roger thought that the Punisher was going to attack Kingpin, but after sensing the situation inside the building, he found that Kingpin was not in the building at this time. As a professional, it was absolutely impossible for the Punisher to make such a low-level mistake. Since Kingpin was not here, it meant that the Punisher's current target was not him. Although Chrysler Building still had many people, Roger did not find anyone noteworthy inside. Maybe the Punisher was going to the roof of the Chrysler Building to look for some fresh air. Although this possibility was very small, it did not mean that this situation would not happen. After waking up the next day, Roger did not go to the office. Instead, he stayed at home to continue Reencarnacion's fourth stage of the study. Before Tony gave him the commission, he could not accept other commissions, so he did not need to stay at the office. The fourth stage of practice was more difficult than he had imagined. After practicing at home for 2 days in a row, he finally completed this stage of practice and truly mastered this extremely growth-oriented unmarked jutsu. Reencarnacion was just a starting point. What he wanted was not just Reencarnacion. After dispersing the spinning Reencarnacion in his hand, he opened his attribute panel. Host, Roger Job. Ninja, innate talent. Sealing technique, 7 attribute chakra, bloodline limit. Sharingan ninjutsu. Substitution, body flickering technique, temporary paralysis technique, shadow clone technique, flying thunder god technique, sensing technique, Reencarnacion, self-taught. Lightning release, Chidori fire release. Great fire annihilation water release. Water gun technique, Een release. Bringer of darkness technique, Chirk of volume. 5 number of available ninja coins. 25. There was an additional Reencarnacion in the attribute panel. Because he was self-taught, the system had specially written the word self-taught. However, Roger's attention did not stay on the attribute panel for long. He quickly opened the system's exchange page and found his target. Big Ball Rasengan, Ultra Big Ball Rasengan, Wind Release, Rasengan, Wind Release, Raisin Shuriken, Wind Release, Ultra Big Ball Raisin Shuriken, Planetary Rasengan, Sage Art, Rasengan, Sage Art, Super Tailed Beast Raisin Shuriken. There was a series of ninjutsu related to Rasengan on the exchange page, and the exchange price was slightly lower than before. Just like having Sharingan, the price of Mangekyo Sharingan dropped, and the system was very fair in the exchange price. As long as the prerequisite conditions were completed, the subsequent exchange price would be adjusted accordingly. Although these ninjutsus in the exchange page moved Roger, he didn't have any intention to exchange. The reason was very simple. He did not have enough ninja coins right now. Moreover, even if he had enough ninja coins, he would not give priority to these Rasengan ninjutsus. This is because those aren't as strong as Mangekyo Sharingan, nor are they stronger than Senju Hashirama's would release. Unless the amount of ninja coins reached a level where it did not matter, he would not consider directly exchanging them for Rasengan ninjutsus. The smooth grasp of Rasengan made him see another possibility, the possibility of self-development of ninjutsu. When exchanging for Chidori, he was not motivated or knowledgeable about learning ninjutsu. But after successfully mastering Rasengan by self-study and self-development, learning ninjutsu might become an essential way for him to master new ninjutsu in the future. As for ninja coins, you can keep them to exchange for the existence of bloodline limit, which can't be obtained through learning. For example, would release of Senju Hashirama, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, or Nine-Tailed Chakra, Chapter 29. Obadiah Stane looking at each and every one of Bloodline Limit's abilities. Roger sighed helplessly. Right now, he only had 25 ninja coins in total. He couldn't even exchange for a higher level ninjutsu, let alone these Bloodline Limit, which could cost hundreds of ninja coins. After casually training in his training room for some time, he used Flying Thunder God technique to come to the office. Because she didn't understand the standard of Roger accepting commissions, Erica recorded all the entrusters who came to her for the past few days, sorted out a detailed document, and handed it to Roger. Tony had not given the commission to him yet, so Roger had no way to accept other commissions. However, to pass the time, he still carefully browsed through the documents arranged by Erica. The commissions inside were similar to the typical private detective commissions, basically all for people or searching for things, and there was nothing to pay attention to. Just when he thought that today was also a day where he had nothing to do, the office's door was pushed open. The person who opened the door was a bald man in his 50s or 60s. He had a clean and tidy beard on his face. He was fat and wore an expensive custom-made suit. Although he maintained a smile on his face, he gave off an invisible pressure. With just a glance at this man, Roger recognized his identity. The man who came in was Obadiah Stane, who had single-handedly planned the kidnapping of Tony. Obadiah was one of the Stark Industries' higher-ups. After Howard Stark's accidental death, he was initially the person with the most chance of becoming the chairman of the Stark Industry. But unfortunately, the playboy Tony later became a prodigal son and returned to the Stark Industries' chairman position. He also displayed an unparalleled talent for invention. Since Tony took over Stark Industry, Obadiah became a wilted leaf beside Tony. After knowing that he could not achieve his ambition through normal means, he began to consider using other methods to eliminate Tony, which was why the kidnapping of Tony happened. Although Obadiah had not said a word, Roger had already guessed his purpose of coming here. If guesses correctly, the purpose of Obadiah's trip was to ask Tony how he escaped from the Ten Rings. Of course, Obadiah could not simply ask this question, but he would definitely mention this matter in a roundabout way. This could be easily inferred from the fact that Obadiah came alone without bringing his secretary and driver. Just as Roger had expected, Obadiah's face showed an extremely grateful expression after entering the office. He quickly walked in front of him and said in an incomparably sincere tone, "You must be Mr. Roger. I really thank you so much. If not for you, Tony might have." Obadiah did not continue. If only looking at his current expression, most people would think he was here to thank Roger. However, Roger was evident that Obadiah would not have the slightest bit of gratitude towards him. He might even intend to take out his gun and shoot him. I do that to complete the commission handed to me. You don't need to be so polite. Roger's tone was very calm, as if there was no emotion. Even so, Obadiah still had an extremely grateful look and took the opportunity to sit on the chair in front of Roger. If not for finding out how Tony escaped from the hands of the Ten Rings terrorists, Obadiah wouldn't have been able to force a private detective like Roger, who had no status at all. On the day Tony returned to New York, Obadiah specially sent people to Afghanistan to find out what had happened. But unfortunately, when his people spent a lot of effort in Afghanistan to find the cave where Raza and the others were stationed, all they saw were corpses and a messy battlefield. Although they did not find the answer they wanted, in the end, they found a steel armor that had been blown up in the cave where Raza died. When Obadiah saw the blown-up Mark I in his secret warehouse, he immediately realized that this was a weapon beyond its era created by Tony himself. After the wreckage of Mark I was sent back to New York, Obadiah sent people to start the reverse engineering project, trying to restore and upgrade Mark I. However, just as Obadiah's engineer was in full swing carrying out the reverse engineering project of Mark I, his subordinate, who was arranged to monitor Tony's whereabouts, reported a piece of news to him. Tony went to see a private detective and even brought the private detective back to the seaside villa. As an old fox who had been in the business world for decades, Obadiah immediately realized that this private detective was the key to Tony's escape. If not, the mark I built by Tony would not appear in the cave where Raza died. A few days ago, Obadiah had planned to visit Roger. However, before he came, he asked his people to investigate Roger's past. As a result, the investigation took several days. After the investigation, Obadiah was more confident that Roger was the one who saved Tony, which was why he came to Roger's office alone today. Although he was the only one who entered the office, his more than 10 bodyguards were near the office at this time. If anything happened to him, his bodyguards would come to the office immediately to save him. No matter what, you are the one who saved Tony. So as his senior, I must express my gratitude. With that, Obadiah took out a checkbook from his suit pocket, quickly wrote it down, and then put the check in front of Roger. $10 million, as expected of a rich man. The way he expressed his gratitude was simple. Although Roger did not like Obadiah much, he still accepted the check. Then, he casually threw the check that could be used to withdraw $10 million at any time into the desk drawer. I accept your thanks. When Roger accepted the check, Obadiah chatted with Roger for more than 10 minutes, and then he talked about Afghanistan in a roundabout way. Roger took the initiative to skip some of the information and then told Obadiah a half-true and half-false story. Combined with the damage on Mark I and the information brought back by his men, Obadiah restored the scene at that time with his imagination. It's unfair for a great man like you to stay in a place like this, Mr. Roger. If you don't mind, Stark Group now has a vacancy for a security supervisor. We pay no less than 10 million USD a year. I wonder if Mr. Roger is interested. Chapter 30. An explosive gift. At first, Roger thought that Obadiah was quite generous, so he didn't even think about it and wrote a check for $10 million. But after hearing Obadiah's words, he took back his previous evaluation. $10 million a year. This salary was indeed an astronomical price that only existed in the imagination of ordinary people. But for him, this price was simply an insult, so he didn't even have the interest in answering Obadiah. He just shook his head. After Obadiah left, Roger handed the check in the drawer to Erica and said, "Go and cash this check. Use the money in it for the office's operating expenses." Erica was stunned after hearing what Roger said. A few days ago, Roger just gave her a bank card with $5 million. It had only been a few days, but now Roger gave her a check for $10 million. The reason was the same as before: the operating funds of the office. Although Erica was unsure what Roger was thinking, she was now very sure that Roger did not open this firm to make money. After Erica left, Roger picked up a newspaper on the desk and read it out of boredom. The date of the newspaper was the latest. This was prepared by Erica. Although Erica didn't have any assistant experience in the past and didn't even have decent work experience, she still worked hard to learn how to become a qualified assistant. Of course, if being a ninja was a part of the job, then her experience is quite rich. Roger originally planned to read the newspaper to kill time, but a report in the newspaper attracted his attention. Chrysler Building's biological laboratory was invaded in the middle of the night. 15 security guards died. Chrysler Building? Could it be that this was done by Frank the Punisher? Thinking back to the scene of Frank the Punisher mysteriously appearing in Chrysler Building last night, Roger was even more confident that he was the one who had invaded this time. After setting up the 3 challenges with the Punisher, he had been waiting for the Punisher to act. However, the Punisher seemed to have completely forgotten about this matter. He had no intention of attacking him at all. He was not even interested in getting close to the office. Although he did not know what the Punisher was planning, Roger was not worried about his safety at all. If he were that easy to sneak up on, he would have died in one of those retaliations. Just as Roger was considering whether he should let Erica bring back some Chinese food along the way, the door to the office was pushed open again. The person who came in was not a client, but a courier in a federal courier uniform. "Are you Mr. Roger? There's a parcel for you here." It was normal for a courier to send a parcel to the door. But after hearing the courier's words, Roger immediately felt something was wrong. There might be many people who knew his office address, but none of them would send the express delivery. Roger appeared in front of the courier in a flash. He directly took the package and then opened the package with the kunai he carried with him. "Sir, you haven't signed yet." "You don't." Before the courier could finish speaking, he saw the time bomb counting down in the box. It was a time bomb less than 3 minutes away from the explosion. "I won't sign the name. If you don't want to, you could take it back." After hearing Roger's words, the shocked courier finally returned to his senses. He shook his head and ran away without looking back. After seeing the time bomb, Roger's first reaction is thinking, the Punisher sent this bomb. But after thinking about it, he felt that the Punisher would not attack him in such an ungraceful way. Just as he was about to bring the bomb to ask the Punisher personally, he saw the newspaper he had casually placed on the table. An almost instinctive idea instantly appeared in his mind. After sensing Flying Thunder God's formula, Roger, carrying the bomb, appeared in front of him. The Punisher did not show any surprise at Roger's arrival, as if he had already expected his arrival. Seeing the bomb in Roger's hand that was only a few seconds away from exploding, the Punisher took out a remote control and pressed the red button on it. The moment Punisher pressed the button, the timer on the bomb instantly returned to 0. There was no explosion, no fire, only smoke like a prank. After the timer returned to 0, white smoke sprayed out from the hidden hole in the bomb, and a Christmas song rang at the same time. In the cheerful rhythm of the Christmas song, the Punisher stood up from his chair and silently walked to Roger, taking the prank bomb from his hand. "This is a prank bomb I bought in a toy store. I gave this to you because I wanted you to come over personally." The Punisher's tone was very calm, as if he was joking with Roger. Roger did not speak, only silently looking at the somewhat abnormal Punisher in front of him. "I have seriously considered your proposal last time. I asked you to come here to tell you my decision," the Punisher said as he walked. He went directly to the refrigerator in the corner of the room, took out 2 bottles of beer from it, and then casually threw a bottle to Roger. After receiving the beer that the Punisher threw, Roger found a chair and sat down. He wanted to hear what decision the Punisher made. The Punisher did not tell Roger directly, but sat on a bunk bed not far from Roger. "This is an abandoned cargo ship. The owner of this place was originally a Russian gang. After punishing them, I felt that this place was quite good, so I built this place into a secret base of mine." After saying that, the Punisher opened the beer in his hand and drank a few mouthfuls in silence. Then he continued, "Although the environment here is not good, the good thing is that it is quiet and no one will disturb it." The Punisher seemed to be recalling something. When he said these words, a hint of gentleness appeared on his face. Looking at the Punisher's current appearance, Roger did not know what to say for a moment, so he could only continue to act as an audience. In the next few minutes, the Punisher continued to speak, but he never mentioned his decision. He did not know if it were because this was a cargo ship cabin, but Roger felt a little stuffy. To ease this uncomfortable heat, he had to open the cold beer in his hand and drink a few mouthfuls in silence. Chapter 31. Punisher's trap, a faint smile appeared on the Punisher's face when Roger finally opened the beer and drank a few sips. I don't want to interrupt you, but you haven't said what your decision is even after talking for so long. Go straight to the point. What is your final decision? After speaking, Roger raised the beer in his hand and quietly drank a few sips. Even after drinking several sips of beer and almost finishing the beer in his hand, he still felt really stuffy. Well, since you were so anxious to know, I will say it directly. The Punisher threw away the beer can in his hand, then stood up and came to Roger, looking down at him from above. My decision is no. I will not become a subordinate of someone like you. Moreover, I will definitely drag you down to hell with me. At this moment, the Punisher emitted powerful, killing intent. He felt like two different people compared to when he invited Roger to talk. Is that so? Since that's the case, the previous agreement seems to be void. Facing the powerful killing intent of the Punisher, Roger still had a calm expression, as if he had not sensed the killing intent of the Punisher at all. Do you intend to resist first or obediently surrender? Although the final outcome of these two choices is the same, I don't mind giving you the last chance to choose. The Punisher had already made it obvious, and Roger had completely given up on his plans to subdue him. Although the Punisher's ability is good, and he would work well as a henchman, Roger doesn't need a subordinate who doesn't follow orders. Three-legged toads were hard to find, and two-legged people were everywhere. The Punisher's strength might be very valuable to others. However, in Roger's eyes, it was not that good. I know that I'm not your match. However, this does not mean that I have no way to drag you down to hell with me. I have done enough things in my life. It is time to end it. Moreover, I have nothing to regret if I can drag someone like you into hell. The Punisher had no intention of attacking Roger or running away. Instead, he came to the fridge again and took out a can of cold beer. To him, his attack had been completed. As for the rest, he just needed to leave it to time. Sigh. I am not particularly surprised that you made this decision. Roger sighed helplessly at first, then continued. But I didn't expect that you would come up with such a crude plan. If I'm not wrong, you should have done something to the beer. You seem to recall the past, but your real purpose is to let me drink that can of beer. It was unknown whether it was an illusion, but the stuffy feeling was getting stronger and stronger. Roger even felt some obvious discomfort. That's right. I did do something to the beer. However, beer is not the real point. If you drink the beer, it will naturally be better. After saying that, the Punisher suddenly showed an expression of extreme pain, and his whole body trembled uncontrollably. It's time. It seems that I have to go ahead of you. It doesn't matter. I will wait for you in hell. The Punisher shouted at Roger in a painful and crazy tone. His eyes turned red because of the high blood pressure and internal bleeding. The beer is just a cover. 10 seconds after you came here, you are already dead. If I want to kill someone like you, how can I not pay the price? For this operation, I specially modified the environment here. As long as you stay here for more than 10 seconds, you will definitely die. Ha 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 ha. Looking at the Punisher, who was still laughing in pain, Roger shook his head helplessly again. Actually, before I came here, I knew you had planned something this time. Roger changed his sitting position and continued. So, the person who came is not me. After hearing Roger's words, a look of confusion appeared on the Punisher's pained face. Let me guess. There are 3 key points of your preparation this time. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. First, it's a time bomb. It's planned to have no explosives in the package, because if there are explosives, you can't send them out. However, this bomb is not your so-called prank toy. Although the gas coming out of it doesn't look strange, I guess this gas should be some fatal gas. It is likely the things you stole from Chrysler Building's biological laboratory. Of course, you don't expect this bomb to be effective because there are too many uncontrollable factors. For example, if it is damaged halfway, its efficiency will be reduced or the package will never be sent to me. It is all possible. If I can receive it in time, it is best. If I can't, you will find other ways to inform me again and ensure I come here. After saying this, Roger took a few deep breaths to ease the discomfort in his body and then continued. When I came here, your 2 preparations began. This is a confined space that you modified ahead of time, and after I got here, it looks like you turned off the timer on the bomb, But I think this remote signal should have also turned on other devices at the same time, like some kind of device that would release deadly poison gas. In this confined space, as long as the setup is correct, the poison gas can quickly cover the entire room in a short time, thus causing the people inside to be poisoned unknowingly. You know that I have the ability to leave this place at any time, so you must have a sufficiently attractive bait to allow me to stay here for enough time. To kill me, you chose to use yourself as bait. First, you can ensure that I will not leave immediately. Second, you can also watch me die under the attack of your poison gas. As for that can of beer, it doesn't matter if it's poisoned or not. Anyway, it's just a tool to cooperate with your acting. But to ensure the final effect, you still did something inside. After seeing the ability I displayed last time, you know that you can't rely on normal attacks to kill me. So you can only use this kind of subtle move. And you know very well that you can only use this method once, because once you arouse my suspicion, I may not be in the mood to play games with you anymore. Rogue spoke unhurriedly, and the Punisher's face no longer had any look of madness on it. Chapter 32. Edo Tensei the Punisher had a look of disbelief on his face. He could not understand why Roger knew his plan so clearly. Since Roger had already guessed his plan, why did he take the risk to come over? Thinking of this, Punisher suddenly remembered what Roger had said before. The person who came is not me. After recalling this sentence, the Punisher seemed to have realized something, and his face turned extremely scared. It seems you have also realized something, but before you die, I will let you see it. As soon as his voice fell, Roger, sitting not far away from the Punisher, turned into smoke with a bang and quickly disappeared into the air. Looking at this completely unscientific scene in front of him, the Punisher laughed bitterly and then spat out a few mouthfuls of blood in pain. To make Roger stay here, he did not hesitate to use his life as bait, trying to bring Roger to hell with him. But now, his efforts were no different from a joke. The poison gas he used was a semi-finished product he had snatched from Chrysler Building's biological laboratory, a semi-finished product that's still under development. So even if he wanted to save himself, there was no way for him to recover from this. When the Punisher thought he would die in this kind of ironic ending, Roger's figure appeared in front of him again. I forgot to tell you, the ninjutsu just now is called Shadow Clone Technique. Do you think it looks exactly the same as me? After that, Roger once again sat back on the previous chair. Right, the current me is still Shadow Clone Technique. I am now in the office. For safety, I didn't want to come over myself, so I asked my clone to come over. In addition, I want to see what you look like in the final moments of your life. I also wanted to tell you something. Don't think that you can be free just because you die. Although the Punisher didn't know the true meaning of Roger's words, he was certain that Roger was definitely not joking. Under the constant erosion of the poison, the Punisher finally died, dying excruciatingly. After the Punisher died, Shadow Clone Technique came to the Punisher's body and took away his heart. Then, Shadow Clone Technique used Flying Thunder God Technique and left the cabin full of deadly poison. When Shadow Clone Technique appeared again, he was in an abandoned warehouse, and the person in front of him was Roger himself. After putting the part of the Punisher's heart on the ground, Shadow Clone Technique turned into smoke and disappeared. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Roger took a few deep breaths and opened the system exchange page. After quickly going through the exchange page of ninjutsu and bloodline limit, Roger's eyes stopped on a special scroll. The scroll of Edo Tensei. In the information column, besides the scroll's name, there is also general information about the scroll. After being exchanged, it can be used once to cast the S-level forbidden spell, Edo Tensei. When exchanging for the scroll, a living but unconscious human body was also bundled in advance. The original price is 100 ninja coins, and the beginner discount price is only 20 ninja coins. The system has many strange scrolls. Edo Tensei scroll is one of them. Because he had never exchanged for an Edo Tensei scroll, Roger only needed to pay the beginner discount value of 20 ninja coins to trade for this scroll. Without hesitation, Roger exchanged for this Edo Tensei scroll that only required the beginner discount value and got a human body that had been engraved with a control spell in advance, alive but unconscious. The Edo Tensei scroll method was straightforward and could be used only by injecting chakra. After putting part of the Punisher's heart together with the unconscious body, Roger opened the Edo Tensei scroll in his hand and injected it with his chakra. After the seemingly ordinary Edo Tensei scroll received Roger's chakra, a complex seal formation immediately appeared, and then it emitted a strange black light. After a few seconds, the male body on the ground slowly stood up. Dust floated around the body of the man who stood up. Under the cover of the dust, this body began to transform into the appearance of the Punisher. The transformation process was concise. A few seconds later, the body of the Punisher with Edo Tensei appeared in front of Roger. "I came back to life." The Punisher looked at his hands in confusion. He found it hard to accept this fact. "That's right, you came back to life. You came back to life with a new form." Roger did not have the heart to explain what Edo Tensei was to the Punisher. In the Punisher's face of disbelief, his mind connected to the control technique on the Punisher, directly wiping out the emotions and will that the Punisher possessed. He wanted a subordinate who could obey his orders 100% and not an enemy who tried to kill him all day. When his emotions and will were erased, the Punisher's eyes became confused. Although he retained his past memories and experience, he no longer had his emotions and obeyed Roger's orders 100%. Try this body and see how much of the previous abilities have been preserved. After hearing Roger's instructions, the Punisher did not hesitate. He immediately moved his body to test it. After more than 10 minutes of testing, the Punisher answered strength, speed, and technique are weaker than before, but the physical strength is far stronger than before. There is no sense of exhaustion. Moreover, there seemed to be other abilities hidden in this body. When the Punisher had just been reincarnated, Roger had used the sensing technique to sense him in detail. Although it was the body of an Edo Tensei, there was no chakra in the Punisher's body. Shoot your head, and you will know what the hidden ability is. After saying that, Roger threw a pistol at the Punisher. After taking the pistol that Roger threw over, the Punisher did not hesitate and directly turned the muzzle to his temple. Then he decisively pulled the trigger. Bang! After the gunshot, a big hole appeared on the Punisher's head. However, he did not fall, and no blood flowed from the wound on his head. Just as the Punisher was puzzled, clouds of dust appeared and quickly gathered in the wound on his head, restoring the damaged injury to its original state. This is one of the benefits of the body of an Edo Tensei. Not only do you not feel tired, but you also have a certain degree of immortality. You still have the possibility of being killed, but that is not something that can be done with conventional methods, so you do not have to worry too much. Chapter 33. Mark 3. Due to the reincarnation effect of Edo Tensei, the Punisher's strength had declined a little. However, the regenerative and immortal ability given by Edo Tensei allowed the Punisher to unleash even more strength. As a warrior with rich experience, the Punisher knew how terrifying this near-immortal body was in battle. Your current appearance is very different from a normal person's, so I suggest that you should consider wearing a mask or something. Of course, if you don't care about what others think, it doesn't matter. Although the Punisher was still the same as before, his eyes were completely different from that of a normal person. The whites of a normal person's eyes were white, while the whites of the eyes of the reincarnated person were black. Moreover, there would be apparent cracks on the face of the reincarnated person. It looked like a clay doll that had cracks. I will pay attention to this. Although the Punisher had never seen his current appearance, he would still consider it seriously due to Roger's suggestion. As for what is different about this body, you need to explore yourself. If there is a need, I will contact you again. The things given by the system would occasionally change, so Roger was not too sure if there would be any unexpected changes in the Punisher's body. After giving the Punisher instructions, Roger used Flying Thunder God technique to return to the office and then looked at his current status panel. Apart from the fact that the number of available ninja coins had dropped from 25 to 5 and an additional column of information about spiritual objects, the other info in the attribute panel did not change. Spiritual objects: Frank the Punisher, Edo Tensei, reincarnated. Looking at the column of spiritual objects, Roger began to consider whether he should learn psychic arts in advance. However, After seeing his remaining 5 ninja coins, he silently forgoes this idea. Although the exchange price for psychic arts was not expensive, it was only 30 ninja coins. But this was not something he could consider now. Even if Tony gave him the Mark III that brought Arc Reactor, he would only have 10 ninja coins. He doesn't know when he'll be able to stop worrying about ninja coins. Not long after Roger returned to the office, Erica, who went to the bank to exchange the check, returned to the office. There was also a man that Roger was familiar with who came back with her. Roger didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the hairline of Coulson seemed to move back a little. What's wrong? Does the Agent Coulson of SHIELD have another commission? Roger retracted his gaze from Coulson's hairline and asked jokingly, "In the future, you can stop calling us the National Defense and Logistics Bureau. We now have an acronym, SHIELD. This is definitely one of the wisest decisions you have made this year." After hearing the familiar acronym of SHIELD, Roger sincerely praised. "Let's not talk about the name first. We have a commission for you to take over. The reward is $2 million. Coulson directly stated the purpose of his trip. "No." Roger also gave his answer directly. "You don't even know the content of the commission. Isn't this a bit too hasty?" Coulson never thought that Roger would give such a simple and crude answer. "I've been thinking about the meaning of human life for a while, so I don't plan to accept the commission." Before Tony handed Mark III over, even if Roger wanted to accept the commission, he would not be able to accept it because the system would not judge the commission. Coulson didn't believe a word of what Roger said, but even so, he gave up on persuading Roger. Instead, he told Roger something else. "If it's convenient for you during this period, our director wants to make an appointment to meet you privately." After that, Coulson took out a business card with only the phone number printed on it from his pocket. "When the time comes, you can call this number directly." Coulson placed the business card in front of Roger and left the office. Time passed in a flash. 2 weeks after Roger turned the Punisher into the state of Edo Tensei, he received a call from Tony. "The Mark III U1 has been completed. You can come and get it at any time." For some reason, Tony sounded a little depressed and tired. After hanging up the phone, Roger did not hesitate and directly used Flying Thunder God technique to Tony's garage. After seeing Roger arrive, Tony was not surprised at all. He casually pointed to the Mark III besides the garage. Roger did not directly take his Mark III account. Instead, he looked at Tony and asked, "How did you become like this?" The current Tony was like a depressed patient who had insomnia for several days. His entire person revealed an abnormal sense of inferiority. "A few days ago, I went to visit Grena. Do you know Grena? That is Inson's hometown." Speaking up to this point, Tony's low breathing became heavier. "Inson saved my life, but the people of his hometown were hurt by the weapons I invented. Isn't this very ironic? Inson saved an executioner who hurt the people of his hometown." Tony poured a few mouthfuls of strong liquor into his mouth, and next to him was a bottle of strong liquor that was about to be finished by him. Roger did not speak, but silently listened. "A group of terrorists threatened them, so I used Mark III to teach them a lesson. I thought this would make them feel better, but it was useless. The weapons produced by Stark Industry are still in the hands of the terrorists, but I have no way to deal with this. When I first returned to New York, I announced at the press conference that the door of Stark Industries' weapon department will be permanently closed." Looking at Tony, who reeks of alcohol, Roger sighed. He thought Tony had suffered a major blow, but he did not expect it to be these things. "You are Tony Stark, a famous genius. You can't even handle these things, can you? Even if you can't handle it, you still don't have Mark III. When you wear it, you will find that the solution to the problem is straightforward. Tony has no way to stop the production of weapons in Stark Industries. Nothing more than Obadiah used normal business methods to limit his rights, causing him to lose control of the company. There are many ways to solve this situation. The simplest way was to wear the Mark III and talk to Obadiah directly." After saying that, Roger no longer paid any attention to Tony and directly came in front of Mark III, which Tony handed over. He did not know how it felt to use ninjutsu on Mark III, but he could try it when he returned. Roger did not care about the combat power of Mark III. To him, Mark III was more like a souvenir, not a weapon. Chapter 34. Chidori Katana looking at the Mark III in front of him that was full of mechanical beauty, Roger suddenly had a bold idea. In the future, if he accepted Tony's request, he could use Mark's series battle armor as a reward. Although Tony might not be willing to do it every time, there was no harm in trying it out. I will accept the reward, but let me put this here for a while. I will come back to get it later. Wearing Mark III needed a unique mechanical device. Only Tony had this device, so even if he wore Mark III now, he could not take it off after returning to the office. Up to you. Anyway, I have already given you the reward you want. At this time, Tony has stopped drinking his liquor. After hearing the advice given by Roger, he began to think about how to take back control of the Stark Group. Wearing Mark III to talk to Obadiah was indeed a way. However, Tony did not intend to do so. Obadiah had restricted his authority in the company through the board of directors. It was a legal business method. The board members are fully supporting his action. If he threat be unable through Mark III, he would not be able to regain control of the company. This is not the result that he is looking for. Obadiah's weaknesses must be found to regain control of the company through reasonable means. Thinking of this, Tony glanced at Roger, who was still admiring Mark III. I have a commission right now. I hope you can accept it. If it's a reward, you can ask for it. If Mark III could be a reward, then other rewards that Tony naturally does not care would be easy to obtain. He said smugly, "If your commission is for me to gather information about Obadiah, then I advise you to give up." Roger was 100% sure that this kind of commission would not pass the system's judgment. Why? Aren't you a ninja? Do ninjas pick missions? Tony asked in confusion. I don't know what the other ninjas are like, but I am a principal ninja, so I don't just take any missions. Although a commission scroll only costs 1 ninja coins, no matter how small it is, a ninja coin is still a ninja coin. This kind of commission obviously could not be judged by the system, so there was no need to waste a scroll. This was based on the experience he had in the past 3 years. If you have other tasks in the future, you can contact me again. As soon as the voice fell, Roger's figure disappeared in front of Tony, and he instantly teleported to the office. After accepting Mark III, the mission status in the system finally changed to the completed state. Mission content: fight Tony Stark while he was wearing Mark III. Mission status: complete. Mission reward: 5 ninja coins sent. After completing Tony's commission, the number of ninja coins increased from 5 to 10. However, in the next second, his number of available ninja coins had changed back to 5. For commission scrolls and 1 summoning scroll. When accepting Tony's commission, Roger used his last commission scroll. He could only exchange for the commission scroll if he still planned to continue taking the commission. As for the summoning scroll, he planned to use it to store Mark III in the future. However, because he had yet to learn the summoning technique, Kuchios no Jutsu, even if he exchanged for the summoning scroll, he could only put the Mark III into the alternate space in the scroll. However, he could not summon Mark III from the scroll. The exchange price for the summoning technique was not expensive, only 20 ninja coins. If everything went smoothly, he could take another mission, and he would have enough ninja coins to exchange for it. After Roger left, Tony thought of a other person who would help him, a person who could help him find out Obadiah's weakness. Pepper Potts. There weren't many people Tony could trust now, and Pepper was one of them. Moreover, Pepper's profile would also meant that she was the most suitable candidate for this task. You do something for me. Go to my office and hack into the computer mainframe and get all the recent load lists back. This should work. Tony did not tell Pepper the reason and directly handed a USB setup to hack the program to Pepper. It's probably inside the administrative files. If not, it's in the hidden disk. Just go find the smallest numbered one. Looking at the USB in her hand, Pepper asked Tony, "If I got those files, what are you going to do?" It's still the same. If it's a hidden transaction, I will stop it. Find my weapon and destroy it. Pepper had seen how Tony looked the last time he returned from his kidnapping, so she knew exactly what Tony's so-called set was. Tony, you know that I am willing to help you do anything, but in the future, if you continue to mess around like last time, I can't help you. I'm not trying to show off for anyone, or for money, or for any contract. It's just that I want to do this. That's all. That's all? Then I quit. Pepper smiled bitterly and threw the USB in her hand on the table. You've been by my side for so many years. You were there when I relied on destroying others to make money. Today, I wanted to save those threatened by my weapon, but you wanted to leave me? Pepper stopped walking and turned to Tony. You will die. I don't want to help you kill yourself. Without you by my side, I would have been dead long ago. Potts, I didn't go crazy. I just finally understood my calling. The voice in my heart tells me that it's the right thing to do. Pepper slowly walked back to the table and silently picked up the USB. In the private practice room that he had modified, Roger was thinking about how to teach himself the Chidori katana. The nature of Chidori's katana was made based on Chidori. By injecting lightning attribute chakra into the blade, the lethality of the blade increased. Roger had learned Chidori a long time ago, but he rarely used it because he didn't have the Sharingan at that time, so he couldn't use the full strength of Chidori. As for the lightning attribute chakra, it was not a problem for him. Now the question is how to transform Chidori and channel it to the blade. To learn Chidori katana, the best tool to use is the Kusanagi sword that Sasuke used. But the price of Kusanagi's sword was a little high, and it was not something he could consider for the time being. Therefore, he could only take a step back and try using an ordinary katana. If it didn't work, he would have to exchange for Kusanagi's sword. Releasing and condensing chakra was not difficult for Roger, but when he tried to attach lightning attribute chakra to the katana in his hand, he felt an extremely obvious resistance. Chapter 35. Chidori Sharp Spear. When chakra tried to attach itself to the katana, it was like two same sides of magnets encountering each other, and there was an irresistible force between them. After several tries, Roger had to stop this useless effort and temporarily gave up the idea of self-learning Chidori katana. Moreover, he now suspected that even if he exchanged Chidori katana from the system, before he found a suitable weapon, he also could not use this lightning release ninjutsu of Chidori katana comfortably. Looking at the price of 80 ninja coins in the system, Roger sighed helplessly. Ninja coins, this kind of thing, was really not enough. Since there was no way to self-learn Chidori katana, for the time being, Roger immediately set his eyes on the other lightning release ninjutsu that derived from Chidori, Chidori Sharp Spear. Unlike Chidori katana, Chidori Sharp Spear could be used without weapons, which is really suitable for him, who is too poor to afford a weapon right now. Roger casually threw the katana in his hand to a corner of the practice room, then stretched out his right hand. The initially silent practice room suddenly became extremely noisy the moment he used Chidori, like 1,000 birds chirping in the practice room at the same time. In addition to the sound of chirping birds in the surroundings, a mass of solid white electric current floated in his right hand, making his right hand look like a bolt of lightning. Although Roger rarely used Chidori, his grasp of this ninjutsu was good. After using Chidori, he began to try and use chakra to guide Chidori to change its form. Unlike self-taught Rasengan, which had completed the practice stage, he did not have a complete idea regarding Chidori's spear. The only thing he could be sure of now was that Chidori's spear was ninjutsu derived from Chidori. The attack distance was much longer than Chidori, but the attack power was not as good as Chidori. From this point of view, Chidori's Sharp Spear had sacrificed part of the power of the attack to achieve the effect of increasing the distance of the attack. Although he was unclear about the principle in the middle, he had a very bold idea. In a short moment, when Chidori had not formed, he forcibly changed the shape of Chidori by controlling the chakra, making it longer. Roger did not know whether this method was valid, but there was no harm in trying it out. Even if he failed, the worst result would be that Chidori that did not successfully take form, and he would waste a portion of his chakra. After making up his mind, he lifted the already formed Chidori from his right hand and prepared to use it again. This time, he deliberately put on the full-speed casting of Chidori. The moment the white electric current appeared, he began to control the chakra in his hand, slowing down the formation of Chidori while trying to lengthen it. If not for the fact that he hadn't relaxed his practice of chakra in the past, he wouldn't have been able to carry out such careful control of chakra. Under his careful control, Chidori, who should have been covering his right hand, began slowly growing in the direction of his finger. It was actually possible. After discovering that Chidori's form had changed, his heart couldn't help but become excited. Because of his excitement, the slowly growing Chidori in his hand suddenly became out of control and then disappeared with a chirping noise. Seeing the white electric current in his right hand instantly disappear, Roger did not look disappointed but became even more excited. Although it was possible that it was a mistake, he found that he seemed to have grasped the trick of the Chidori series ninjutsu. If Chidori was also divided into 4 stages like Rasengan, then Chidori Katana, Chidori Spear, Chidori Current, Chidori Senbon, and other derivative ninjutsu. The difference between them and Chidori was that in the last stage, their nature or shape changed. If it was said that Chidori gathered the high-intensity current produced by chakra in his right hand, making his right hand become like a sharp blade, thus possessing extreme penetrating power. Then Chidori Katana gathered the current on the weapon, thus increasing the lethality of the weapon. However, Chidori Katana's current was no longer attached to the ninja's body, so he needed a suitable weapon to be used. Similarly, Chidori Sharp Spear, Chidori Current, Chidori Senbon, and other ninjutsu only changed the 4th stage of Chidori, thus achieving the effect of launching the current or enveloping the whole body. The specific operation would undoubtedly have different details, but the general principle should be like this. After clarifying this, Roger did not hesitate and again began studying Chidori Spear. Knowing the principle is one thing, but there's a long distance between knowing and whether he could do it or not. After exhausting all the chakra in his body, he was still unable to complete the learning of the Chidori Spear smoothly. His only achievement on this day was to extend the distance of Chidori by about 1 meter. When the distance reached about 1 meter, no matter how hard he tried, he could not continue to extend this length. A Chidori which could only extend 1 meter long was definitely not Chidori Sharp Spear. At best, he could only be regarded as Chidori Sharp Sword. Roger wanted to try other ways to see if he could extend this short distance of 1 meter a little more, but the exhausted chakra in his body dispelled this idea. After changing his chakra control method, Chidori's length changed from 1 meter to 1.5 meters, and he once again consumed all the chakra in his body. After recovering his chakra, he didn't even eat breakfast and began his own practice again. Because of the previous 2 days of trying, he could now use less chakra to reach the goal of extending Chidori, and the distance of extension was also further improved, from 1.5 meters to more than 2 meters. Just when he planned to extend the distance to 3 meters in one go, he looked up outside the window. In the dark night sky, he saw 2 people who were quickly rising. To be precise, he saw 2 steel armor that were rapidly rising into the air. Is that Iron Man and Ironmonger fighting? After seeing this scene, he decisively gave up on the idea of continuing to practice and used the Flying Thunder God technique to disappear into the practice room. In the next second, his figure appeared on the factory's top floor with Arc Reactor's prototype. He had left hundreds of Flying Thunder God's formula in New York to arrive at the scene in time at a critical moment, such as now. Not long after he arrived at the factory's top floor, he saw a giant steel suit falling from the sky, like a meteorite falling from the sky. Just when he thought that Ironmonger would have close contact with the ground like a meteorite, he recovered his flying power and stumbled, landing safely on the ground. Chapter 36. Iron Man vs. Ironmonger. Not long after the Ironmonger stumbled and landed on the ground, Tony, wearing Mark III, also landed on the factory's roof. To be precise, he fell on the top of the factory. After standing up, Tony immediately saw Roger standing not far away. Then, he roared angrily, "I called you more than 20 times, but you didn't answer any of them." "Really? Why didn't I know?" Roger never brought his phone home and did not think anyone would look for him because of personal matters. As for business matters, he could settle it at the office. Just as Tony was about to continue complaining, the Ironmonger descended from the sky and quickly arrived behind him, throwing a punch at him. Tony couldn't dodge in time and was sent flying by the Ironmonger, leaving a trail of sparks on the ground. When the Ironmonger appeared, Roger instantly retreated more than 10 meters, taking the initiative to avoid Tony and the Ironmonger's battle zone. After sending Tony flying, Obadiah immediately saw Roger not far away from him. Without thinking, he raised his left hand towards Roger. Rat-a-tat-a-tat-a, the Gatling gun in the left hand of the ironmonger spun wildly, and countless bullets flew towards Roger at lightning speed. When the first bullet hit Roger, he turned into a cloud of smoke and quickly disappeared into the air. Shadow clone technique. The one hit by the bullet was only shadow clone technique, which Roger left behind. As for himself, he was like a crow, standing on a lightning rod antenna tens of meters away. I was just watching the show. Is there need to target me like this? Roger silently cursed. Although Obadiah could not hear him from the steel armor, he raised his left hand without hesitation after seeing his figure. Roger did not intend to participate in the battle between Tony and Obadiah, but Obadiah did not think this way. At this time, as long as he came out of this place, he would be regarded as Tony's helper. Rat-a-tat-a-tat, the Gatling machine gun in the left hand of the ironmonger began to shoot wildly again, but this time, no bullets hit Roger. The current him was not shadow clone technique. He did not want to experience the feeling of being shot. Through body flickering technique, Roger dodged Obadiah's attack. However, before he could do anything, Tony, who was sent flying by Obadiah, sprinted as fast as he could to the front of the ironmonger and then punched the ironmonger in the head. Although Tony was not good at fighting, with the help of Mark III, he made a hook punch with beauty and strength. This punch did not cause any damage to Obadiah, who was in the combat suit. Unlike Mark III, the Iron Tyrant that Obadiah was wearing was not only equipped with many heavy weapons, but was also bigger and had thicker armor. After being hit by Tony, Obadiah controlled the ironmonger and gave Tony a bear hug. Tony struggled with all his might, but under the huge difference in size and strength, he was unable to break free from the ironmonger's hug. The armor of Mark III also began to deform and break under the great pressure. Repulsor status, failure. Missile status, failure. The auxiliary system in Mark III gives a warning of weapon failure. Seeing Tony's struggle getting weaker and weaker, Obadiah, who was in the combat suit, revealed an incomparably cruel expression. He planned to strangle Tony alive, strangle this damned playboy to death. Just as he planned to implement this idea, the ironmonger's left arm suddenly sounded a malfunctioning alarm. Water gun technique. Roger originally did not intend to participate in this battle, because even if he did not make a move, Tony would still successfully defeat Obadiah in the end. However, after watching from the side for a while, he found that the development of the fight was somewhat different from what he remembered. Tony, who the ironmonger was holding, seemed to have no way to break free. Although Roger was not close with Tony, he didn't want to watch Tony be strangled to death. Moreover, Obadiah used the Gatling machine gun to shoot him twice a row, making him very unhappy. So, in the end, he still participated in the battle, and the moment he attacked, he used water gun technique, which had once pierced through Mark III's left shoulder. When facing Mark III, the liquid bullet water gun technique pierced through Mark III's left shoulder without any suspense. When the target was replaced by the ironmonger, whose body was bigger and had thicker armor, the liquid bullet that water gun technique shot out did not pierce through the ironmonger's armor. It only left a finger-sized wound on the ironmonger's left arm and triggered some mechanical malfunction. Although water gun technique did not successfully pierce through the ironmonger's left arm, Tony took advantage of the moment when the ironmonger's left arm had a mechanical malfunction to break free and avoid being strangled to death. After struggling free from the ironmonger's arms, Tony did not attack again. Instead, he quickly came to Roger's side. "Wait for me here. I'll be right back." As soon as he finished speaking, Roger disappeared in front of Tony and Obadiah. After returning to the office through Flying Thunder God technique, Roger took a commission scroll and a pen from his drawer. Just as he was about to return to Tony's side, he glanced at his phone on the table. 22 missed calls. Tony called him more than 20 times, and all the calls were tonight. Without wasting any more time, Roger used Flying Thunder God technique to return to the factory. In the few seconds he left, Tony was beaten up by the ironmonger and jumped up and down, constantly avoiding the bullets and small missiles that the ironmonger shot out. Immediately carry out the commission. The payment will be paid in US dollars. You decide the number yourself. Sign your name after you finish writing. Roger did not explain too much to Tony, as Obadiah would not give them that much time. Tony did not know why Roger wanted to do this at this time, but he still took the scroll and pen in Roger's hand. As for the eccentric habit of never taking things handed to him, he had to throw that habit away as far away as possible. When Roger restrained Obadiah, Tony quickly wrote on the mission scroll and finally signed his name. After seeing Tony sign his name, Roger immediately opened the system's commission page. Mission content: defeat Obadiah. Mission status: incomplete. Mission reward: 20 ninja coins. A smile appeared on Roger's face when the system's mission page appeared with the mission information. Finally, another ninja coin is going to enter the account. Roger used body flickering technique to instantly pull apart the distance and move his hands and feet. His aura also changed. Chapter 37, Commission in Progress. At this time, Roger was no longer that indifferent attitude. Instead, he became extremely serious. Tony and Obadiah could sense his changes, but their thoughts differed. Tony thought that he could finally take a break. Meanwhile, Obadiah was thinking about how to kill Roger in front of him. After a few short exchanges with Roger, Obadiah found that he seemed to have underestimated the private detective in front of him. Although he had sent people to investigate Roger before, the information he found was far less accurate than what he had seen with his own eyes. How many abilities did this guy actually have? Obadiah did not immediately attack Roger. Instead, he adjusted the radar and scanning system in the combat suit to the highest degree and constantly scanned Roger. Leave this place immediately. If you die before you pay, I will be very troubled. Pepper and Coulson are downstairs now. You can go down and find them there. After saying that, Roger no longer cared about Tony, but focused on Ironmonger in front of him. Although Ironmonger is like a steel giant who lacked mobility, his thick armor gave him impenetrable defense. In the ninja art he currently had, the ninjutsu that could quickly destroy Ironmonger's armor and injure Obadiah inside did not seem to exist. Water gun technique had already been used and could not penetrate such thick armor. Chidori's penetrating power was also good, but he did not want his right hand to collide with Ironmonger's armor. It was okay if it could be penetrated, but if it could not, Chidori's recoil might cripple his right hand. He definitely wouldn't do such a risky thing. The other ninjutsu would be even worse if water gun technique and Chidori couldn't do it. Rasengan might be able to break through or destroy Ironmonger's armor, but the possibility wasn't high either. Since head-on combat wouldn't work, then he could only use some indirect means. It just so happened that he was pretty good at this aspect. After quickly formulating a strategy, 4 balls of smoke suddenly appeared around Roger. 4 identical copies of him appeared out of thin air. Seeing this scene, Obadiah even suspected that he was hallucinating. However, the radar and scanning system reminded him that 4 Roger were appearing out of thin air in front of him. What was going on? On the display screen of the battle uniform, the 5 Roger were all living beings. There was no difference. It's like a ghost. After wearing Ironmonger, Obadiah felt that he had the strongest power in this world. But now, he began to suspect that in this world, other than science and technology, other magical powers were no weaker than science and technology. Just as Obadiah was letting his imagination run wild, the 5 Roger in front of him suddenly rushed towards him. In a blink of an eye, he was surrounded by 5 Roger. Before he could react, a strange, irresistible, mysterious force suddenly enveloped him and deprived him of his ability to move. Temporary paralysis technique. Roger intended to reproduce the treatment that Black Sky had enjoyed on Obadiah, but he soon found that this tactic could not be effective on Obadiah. Even Black Sky would inevitably have a few seconds of inactivity after being hit by his temporary paralysis technique. However, Obadiah, whose physical fitness was far inferior to Black Sky, recovered his mobility a second after being hit by the temporary paralysis technique. Does the steel armor have such a big effect? Roger had also used the temporary paralysis technique in abnormal situations, such as immobilizing the target sitting in the car next to him. But then, the temporary paralysis technique still played the role he should have, locking the target for more than 10 minutes. Just the obstruction of steel was impossible to weaken the effect of the temporary paralysis technique to this extent. Without hesitation, Roger decisively used sensing technique and began perceiving Obadiah's situation. Unlike temporary paralysis technique, sensing technique was not affected in the slightest. He completely sensed the vitality of Obadiah and the energy intensity of Ironmonger's chest reactor. I see. Roger finally understood why the temporary paralysis technique's effect was weakened through the sensing technique. Obadiah could return to normal in just a second, not because he had a body stronger than Black Sky, but because Ironmonger had provided him with an invisible energy field protection. With Arc Reactor on Ironmonger's chest as the core, an energy field that the naked eye could not detect was created around Ironmonger. This energy field was not affected by the surrounding environment. Still, it was inexplicably compatible with the temporary paralysis technique's energy frequency, causing most of the temporary paralysis technique's energy to be assimilated and absorbed when it reached Obadiah. Although the temporary paralysis technique could not produce the corresponding power, no matter how short the time was, it was still controlled for a while. Since one temporary paralysis technique could only last for more than a second, 10 temporary paralysis technique would have more than 10 seconds, and 100 temporary paralysis technique would have more than 100 seconds. If the quality were not enough, then the quantity would need to be increased. Under the signal of Roger's original body, his 4 shadow clone techniques did not hesitate and began to use the temporary paralysis technique one after another. With the chakra reserves of the shadow clone technique, each could use more than 10 temporary paralysis technique, adding up, and it would be more than 40 seconds. This time didn't seem to be long, but it was enough for Roger. When shadow clone technique threw temporary paralysis technique at Obadiah one by one, Roger turned his right hand into a pistol. He pointed his right index finger at Arc Reactor on Ironmonger's chest. If I can't hit him once, then I will shoot him a few more times. In the next period of time, Roger used the speed of 1 shot per second to shoot at Ironmonger continuously. Although the temporary paralysis technique continuously blocked Obadiah's ability to move, his ability to think was still there. Although he was not a scientist, he was clear that once Ironmonger's arc reactor was destroyed, the powerful Ironmonger would become a pile of immobile scrap metal. No, this cannot go on. Obadiah tried to control Ironmonger, but could not even move a finger. Just when he thought in despair that he would die here in such a sullen way, he suddenly thought of a hidden function on Ironmonger. Under normal circumstances, Ironmonger was just a steel armor, controlled by the controller in the armor. But when upgrading Ironmonger, Obadiah suddenly thought of an extreme situation. When the controller loses consciousness or the ability to move, how should Ironmonger take the controller away from the battlefield or continue to fight? With this thought, he let the engineers add a control mode called Cold Blood Mode to Ironmonger's system. Chapter 38, Cold-Blooded Mode, activated if not necessary. Obadiah would never have the intention to activate the Cold-Blooded Mode. However, he knew very well that if he did not activate it, he would never have a chance in the future. Taking advantage of the time when Ironmonger could not move, Roger continuously used water gun technique, intending to use water gun technique to break the strongest armor on Ironmonger's chest. Only by destroying the defense armor on Ironmonger's chest could he destroy Arc Reactor on Ironmonger's chest, making the steel giant completely lose the ability to move. Looking at the screen in front of him, constantly updating the damage data, Obadiah felt regret for the first time. Just as he thought he could only watch as Arc Reactor was destroyed, he suddenly realized that he had temporarily recovered some of his ability to move. However, this state only lasted a short second before completely disappearing. He was once again deprived of his ability to move. But this discovery immediately ignited the fire of hope again. As long as he did it again, even if only for a second, he could activate the cold-blooded mode successfully. Under his prayers, the effect of the temporary paralysis techniques disappearing appeared once again. Without hesitation, Obadiah decisively pressed the activation button of the cold-blooded mode. Cold-blooded mode activated. Autopilot mode activated. Weapons system check. Defensive system check. Energy system check. Driver's health check. Environment check. Lock onto the attacker. Auto attack activated. When Ironmonger's combat suit system quickly checked the current state, the combat suit system immediately gave the command to attack on its own. Because the pilot Obadiah had good living conditions, the combat suit system directly excluded the option to leave the battlefield. Under the control of the combat suit system, Ironmonger attacked Roger like a steel beast. The small missiles and machine guns on his body locked onto the 4 surrounding shadow clone technique simultaneously. As soon as he entered the state of automation, Ironmonger fired all its guns and activated all the weapons on its body. The moment Ironmonger moved again, Roger stopped water gun technique. He used several body flickering techniques in succession to instantly widen the distance between them. When Roger avoided Ironmonger's attack, his 4 shadow clone technique also used body flickering technique one after another, trying to avoid the attacks of the small missiles and bullets. Although these shadow clone techniques avoided the direct attacks of the small missiles and bullets, the airwaves produced by the explosions still attacked them, causing them to turn into smoke and disappear. With just a round of sweeping with all the weapons, Ironmonger successfully cleared out all of shadow clones. However, Roger himself was not surprised by this. Shadow clone technique's resistance to attacks was very feeble. A slight punch could directly make them disappear, let alone the airwaves caused by the missile explosion. Unless the shadow clone technique could dodge without injury, it was only a matter of time before they were destroyed. Moreover, the factory roof was not a very good fighting environment. In this kind of environment, even if they wanted to open up a distance to avoid danger, it would not be an easy matter. When shadow clone technique completely disappeared, Roger did not hesitate to use shadow clone technique again. The 4 identical him appeared again. When a second group of shadow clone technique appeared, Roger did not give them the command to use temporary paralysis technique. Instead, he let them all use water gun technique. Although Obadiah had recovered his ability to move, he had no way to continue controlling Ironmonger. Once the cold-blooded mode was activated, unless the combat suit system believed that all the enemies around had been wiped out, there was no way to stop it. Even the driver could only let Ironmonger act on his own at this time. After detecting that there were 4 identical Roger around him again, Ironmonger did not shoot at all these shadow clone technique like before. Although the combat suit system of Ironmonger did not have any intelligence, it had already determined that the key to solving these shadow clone technique was the real body. As long as the original body was dealt with, these shadow clone technique, who looked the same as the original body, would disappear. Under this kind of logical judgment, Ironmonger directly ignored the 4 shadow clone technique around him and attacked Roger with the maximum power. Ironmonger's judgment is not wrong, but it ignored a problem. Roger's shadow clone technique also had the same attack power as the real deal. When Ironmonger attacked Roger's original body, the 4 shadow clone technique used water gun technique simultaneously. Although water gun technique could not penetrate Ironmonger's defense armor at once, as long as water gun technique's liquid bullets hit the key parts, Ironmonger would also have a mechanical malfunction. Roger had already proved this point with facts. The 4 water gun technique cast by shadow clone technique aimed at Ironmonger's 4 limbs. When the liquid bullets shot out by water gun technique hit Ironmonger's 4 limbs, the originally running Ironmonger suddenly stumbled. Ironmonger's right leg and left arm had both malfunctioned, causing it to lose balance. At this moment, Reencarnacion, which was shiny ball with a light blue light, appeared in Roger's right hand. Although Obadiah could not control Ironmonger at this time, when he saw Reencarnacion, who was emitting a light blue light in Roger's hand, he suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. In the blink of an eye, Roger instantly arrived in front of Ironmonger. Then, he leaped up slightly and aimed his right hand at Ironmonger's chest, arc reactor. In the beginning, Reencarnacion might not have been able to break through the defense armor on Ironmonger's chest and destroy arc reactor inside. But now, the armor on Ironmonger's chest had been destroyed by water gun technique. The remaining defense was not even 1/3 of the previous one. Roger knew that the battle had ended when Reencarnacion came into contact with the armor on Ironmonger's chest. In the face of the sturdy steel armor, Reencarnacion continued to advance at a constant speed. In just a few seconds, Reencarnacion pierced through the armor on Ironmonger's chest and came into contact with Arc Reactor. In the next second, Ironmonger, who was like a steel giant, seemed to have been hit in the chest by the strongest tornado. His huge body was sent flying with an irregular spiral shape, and he was sent flying dozens of meters away. Ironmonger, who was sent flying, tried to balance his body by flying, but there were bursts of dazzling electric sparks around his body. Not only that, but Ironmonger's steel limbs also showed an abnormal twisted state, as if someone had forcibly broken its limbs. Chapter 39. Punisher's first errand, although Ironmonger was trying his best to maintain his flying posture. His severely damaged body could not carry out the system's instructions faithfully. After swaying in the sky for a while, Ironmonger fell like a meteorite onto the street, creating an enormous crater. Boom! The colossal crash attracted the attention of everyone around, including Tony, Pepper, and the others who had yet to leave. Next to Tony and Pepper was Agent Coulson, whose hairline was a little high. On the factory roof, Roger looked down at the completely ruined Ironmonger and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Suppose Reencarnacion could not successfully destroy Ironmonger's arc reactor when the defense armor was almost destroyed. In that case, he could do an attrition battle with arc reactor to see whose endurance was better. Although Ironmonger was destroyed, Obadiah, who was in front of Ironmonger, did not receive too severe damage. When he opened Ironmonger's cockpit, the first person to appear in front of him was Tony, wearing the Mark III. Tony originally wanted to teach Obadiah a lesson, but before he made his move, he finally gave up on this idea. After discovering that Tony had no plans to vent his anger, Coulson gestured to the S.H.A.L.D. secret agent behind him. After taking Obadiah into the car, these S.H.I.E.L.D. secret agents returned, and this time, they directly drove a truck that was enough to contain Ironmonger. What do you want to do? No matter how slow his reaction was, Tony realized something was wrong and immediately stopped the agents of S.H.I.L.D. will temporarily keep Obadiah. As for this steel armor, this is the most direct evidence of his threat to ordinary citizens' safety, so we need to take it back. Coulson explained with a serious face. Are you trying to fool a 3-year-old kid? You think you can come up with such a lame excuse? While answering Coulson, Tony used Mark III's scanning program to scan the current state of Ironmonger's combat suit. The degree of damage is 73. The core energy is destroyed. The power system is destroyed. The body is in a state of severe damage. There's a risk of losing control of the internal weapon. It is recommended to stay away from it as far as possible. After seeing the system feedback, Tony did not continue to stop these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. He only said quietly, "If I were you, I would definitely stay away from that big guy." Although Tony did not say it explicitly, none of the people present were idiots, so they knew what he wanted to say. After reminding him out of goodwill, Tony arrived in front of Pepper, grabbed Pepper by the waist, and flew away without looking back. After Tony and Pepper left, Coulson considered whether he should arrange for other professionals to deal with this severely damaged Ironmonger. However, before he could think of a result, the severely damaged Ironmonger made his own decision. Boom, boom, boom. The missiles that had yet to be fired on Ironmonger exploded. Amidst the explosions and flames, Ironmonger completed the entire process from semi-destroyed to wholly destroyed. After confirming that Ironmonger had completely lost the ability to move, Roger directly used Flying Thunder God technique to return to the office and then went to the sofa. The battle with Ironmonger did not make him feel any joy. He had fought and won, but he was not happy at all. When he was bored to death, Roger took out the commission scroll that Tony had written and wanted to see how much dollars he put on it. Although no matter how many dollars it was, it would not affect the Ninja Coins award. But he still wanted to see what kind of price Tony would write. After opening the scroll, he saw a number that was not very shocking, but definitely not a small number. $50 million. He did not know if Tony did it on purpose or if it was written casually. This time, the reward for his commission was precisely 1,000 times that of the compensation that Coulson had entrusted to him last time. It was still okay whether it was $50,000 or $50 million. For him, it was just icing on the cake. If it weren't for the ninja coins, who would want to earn this hard money in the wind and rain all day? After a long, tiring day, doesn't it feel good to play games? Just as he put down the scroll in his hand, his mobile phone, which had never been with him, received a transfer message. The amount of transfer was exactly 50 million US dollars. When the transfer was completed, the mission in the system was immediately updated. Mission content: defeat Obadiah. Mission status: complete. Mission reward: 20 ninja coins. At this time, the number of available ninja coins in Roger inventory also returned to 25. After ninja coins were received in the account, Sensing Technique used his magic to sense where the Punisher was and then sent it directly to him through Flying Thunder God's formula, who was on the Punisher. This Flying Thunder God's formula was a new tactic he had left behind after the Punisher had completed the reincarnation of Edo Tensei. It was not usual to leave Flying Thunder God's formula on your own spiritual objects, but this was the best way for the current Roger. Whose fault is it for him to not even know summoning technique right now? After the Punisher was resurrected, Roger did not give him any task. He only checked the Punisher's condition from time to time to see if there would be any abnormalities or attracted some existences that he could not contend with right now. Although ninjutsu was very magical, many things were even more magical than ninjutsu in this world, especially when it came to ninjutsu like Edo Tensei, which involved life, death, and soul. Who knew if it would cause any chain reaction? Therefore, he decisively followed his heart's choice and first took out the Punisher Edo Tensei to explore. If there weren't too much of an impact, he wouldn't mind carrying out his crazy plan. According to the situation in the past few days, the Punisher, who had been reincarnated from Edo Tensei, had not encountered any unexpected problems. Everything seemed very calm, at least for now. I'll give you a mission now. I want you to go to a country called Wakanda and bring out two things from this country. One is a rare metal vibration metal unique to Wakanda, and the other is a plant called heart-shaped herb. Among these two things, vibranium is the most important, and the weight cannot be too small. At least it must satisfy the weight of the warrior knife. As for the heart-shaped herb, it's up to your destiny and luck, and if you're destined or lucky, bring back the heart-shaped herbs as well. If you can't find the heart-shaped grass, it is fine. Just make sure don't go back without the vibranium. Although Wakanda had high technology unknown to the outside world, Roger was not very worried about the Punisher's safety. For the Punisher, who had an Edo Tensei body, Wakanda was at most a country with more advanced weapons. No problem. I'll go now. The Punisher quickly agreed to Roger's order. To be precise, there was no such option in his mind to refuse. Chapter 40. I am Iron Man. After arranging the task for the Punisher, Roger returned to his secret nest through Flying Thunder God technique. He didn't know if the weapon created by vibranium could be smoothly used for Chidori Katana. Roger was very interested in this ninjutsu of Chidori Katana. Not to mention the lethality of Chidori Katana. Just the appearance was worth learning. As for whether or not the Punisher could successfully obtain vibranium from Wakanda, he was not particularly worried about this. Although Wakanda possessed extremely high-level vibranium technology, this did not mean they could protect vibranium to the point of being watertight. Even some mercenaries could snatch some vibranium from Wakanda, so it should not be a problem for the Punisher, who had a body of Edo Tensei. The only thing that needed to be cared about was whether the Punisher could bring back heart-shaped herb, which was only consumed by the qualified king of Wakanda. No one would complain that their physical fitness was too good, and Roger, as a ninja, naturally would not. Moreover, if his physical fitness had increased, the amount of chakra he could muster would also increase. His chakra growth had already been slowed a long time ago. If he did not take other methods, it would be difficult for his total amount of chakra to continue growing. To increase the total amount of chakra, the best way was to directly exchange for an immortal human body from the system. However, the exchange price of this immortal human body was a bit high, even higher than the price it would release. In the end, it was because of ninja coins that Roger had were too little. He would not have to worry about these things if there were enough ninja coins. If you have many ninja coins, you can exchange whichever ninjutsu you want, even if it is the Mangekyo Sharingan. If you're tired of using Amaterasu, you can exchange it for other god-like ninjutsu. If you're tired of playing with God, you can also exchange for the divine power of Abido. With the beautiful imagination of the future, Roger ended this day of practice. What happened to Stark Industry last night has already been released publicly by the news. Some witnesses said they saw two steel armored warriors fighting last night. Colonel Rhodes on the television was speaking with a serious face. At this time, Tony was in the room next to him, doing his final preparations. Tony held the latest newspaper in his hand, and the headline on the front page was, "Who is Iron Man?" Iron Man, this name is quite good, but a little inaccurate. To be precise, the main material of the armor is gold titanium alloy, but as a title, it is quite remarkable and easy to remember. Tony said to Pepper while reading the newspaper. At this time, Pepper was helping Tony with his makeup, making him look even more energetic. Your excuses are all here. Just as Pepper was about to help Tony finish his last makeup, Coulson suddenly came in front of him. At that time, you were on the yacht. Pepper took you to Avalon Island for a night. We still have the testimony of the other 50 people. Besides the fact that he had stayed with Pepper for the entire night, the rest of the story was specially created by S.H. I think it would be better to say that only Pepper and I would be better. Tony looked at the words that S.H.I.E.L.D. had prepared and said his own opinion. That's fine too. You can say the content of the story one by one. Coulson didn't care about these minor details. Why didn't you mention Obadiah here? After reading the speech in his hand carefully, Tony asked doubtfully. We have dealt with it. He went on a vacation. The plane accident rate was very high. It seemed that S.H.I.E.L.D. would not let Obadiah leave for a while. Don't you think this is too much like a movie script? Say that one of my bodyguards is a robot. Mr. Stark, this is not what I have to consider first. You have to read it according to the script, and this matter will calm down. Go on stage after 1.5 minutes. After the explanation, Coulson left the room. Let's perform on stage. Pepper picked up Tony's suit jacket and helped to put it on. I personally think Iron Man is a good name. I didn't think of this name. Aren't you Iron Man? I am. You are not. I am. Do you know if I were Iron Man, my girlfriend who knows my identity would be happy and worried. But this psychological struggle will only make her love me more and more. Tony made a final summary. Colonel Rhodes at the press conference also said at this time, now, Mr. Stark will make a statement. He will not answer the reporter's questions. Thank you. After he finished speaking, Colonel Rhodes moved away from the podium. The last press conference was a long time ago. I should read it according to the script. Tony took out the statement that S.H.I.E.L.D. had prepared. Someone suspected I was involved in the highway and the factory roof incident last night. Tony opened his mouth, and a beautiful reporter sitting in the front row interrupted his speech. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Stark. You think we will buy your alibi? One of your bodyguards suddenly appeared, and you are still... I know this sounds quite incredible. Of course, you can question the official statement, but don't say that I am a superhero. I didn't say that you were a superhero. No, that sounds too much of a fantasy. I am not a hero. I have so many flaws and caused so much trouble for everyone. Hearing this, Colonel Rhodes, standing beside Tony, could not help but come to his side and whisper to him, please continue according to the manuscript. Okay. Tony again picked up the statement in his hand, looked at it, and silently thought for a few seconds. I am Iron Man. Tony finally said the classic speech, and the press conference was stirred up. The live broadcast ended because of Tony's departure. After watching Tony's classic speech, Roger turned off the TV and went to the practice room. He had decided not to go to the office until he completely mastered Chidori's sharp spear. Time passed day by day. After Tony publicly admitted that he was Iron Man, the world became somewhat different. Those existences that only existed in comics or novels began to emerge, and the other side of the world seemed to wake up. While Roger was focused on learning from Chidori's sharp spear, the Hand, and Chaste, who were also ninjas, became extremely active. Many citizens witnessed the battle between them. The word ninja began to make headlines in the newspapers frequently. In some blocks, there was even a small trend of imitating ninjas. Chapter 41. Commission from the Hand. After staying in his secret nest for a week, Roger ended the continuous daily practice. After this practice period, he successfully extended the attack distance of the Chidori Sharp Spear to 5 meters. After completely mastering Chidori Sharp Spear, he also took the opportunity to learn Chidori Current in one go. Therefore, 2 more ninjutsus showed up in his status panel: Chidori Sharp Spear and Chidori Current. The appearance of Chidori Sharp Spear and Chidori Current, although it was not enough to significantly increase his strength, provided more possibilities for his battle. After a comfortable bath, Roger went to the office through Flying Thunder God technique. Compared to a week ago, the office had changed a lot. After buying this place and transforming it into an office, Roger had never done any renovations. The entire office was a large, open room of 60 to 70 square meters, and now the office was separated into 2 different rooms. On the inside was Roger's office, while on the outside was Erica's office and customer reception. Although the area was small, there were already signs of official firms. After opening the door to the reception area, Roger saw Erica and the 2 men sitting on the sofa. One of them was not unfamiliar to him. It was Sound, who had just given him $5 million a while ago. As for the Asian man beside him, he had no memory of him at all. However, judging from the man's attire and the aura he exuded, he should be one of Hand's 5 fingers, Murakami. "Hello, Mr. Roger. Long time no see. This is my partner, Murakami." Seeing Roger coming out of the office, Sound immediately stood up and said with a smile. If one only looked at his current appearance, no one would have thought that this big black man who wore a black suit and had a simple smile on his face would be one of the notorious leaders of the Hand. "Long time no see, Mr. Sound. Come into my office and talk." Although Roger did not know the purpose of Sound and Murakami, judging from Sound's current condition, it should not be a bad thing. After entering Roger's office and sitting down, Sound put a delicate and high-end suitcase on the desk and said, "This time, we are here to carry out a commission. If Mr. Roger is interested, the things here are the reward for this time." After saying that, Sound opened the suitcase and revealed the items inside. Inside the suitcase were pieces of white bones, which looked no different from ordinary animal bones. Although Sound had not introduced them, Roger had already recognized the origin of these bones. The Hand's 5 fingers could survive for several hundred years beyond the limits of a human body because of these white bones in front of him. This is a dragon bone, a skeleton left behind after the death of the legendary divine dragon. After using it in the right way, it can obtain an astonishing vitality, significantly prolonging life, and even reviving the dead. Although Sound's words sounded unbelievable, what he said was the truth. The dragon bone indeed had the effect of extending life and reviving the dead. Although there were many restrictions on this resurrection, in general, it was worthy of the title of reviving. The reward is not bad. Tell me about the contents of your commission. But let me remind you in advance, letting you introduce the contents of the commission does not mean that I will accept your commission. Roger introduced the rules on his side in advance to avoid unnecessary trouble. "No problem," Sound immediately replied. Although Murakami came to the office with Sound, it was apparent that Sound was the primary benefactor this time. "The mission this time is straightforward. We hope Mr. Roger can help us clear out a secret stronghold of Kingpin." After hearing Sound's words, Roger was slightly stunned. Then he said, "Is it popular to hire people to attack your opponents in the underworld? Your way of playing is very bold. Those in the underground world didn't even have an automatic hand. So how could they still be called the underground world? We know that Kingpin once entrusted a mission to you, Mr. Roger. But after the mission, your previous cooperation was announced to be over with him, right? Moreover, I think that the last time Kingpin deliberately leaked the news about you, Mr. Roger, and made others think that you were his subordinate. This also makes you very unhappy." Roger didn't care about what Sound said. "How should I put it? It feels like you met someone once, and then that person started to brag about you being his friend. To put it simply, before he crossed over, he could often hear the story of me having a friend or a brother. Even so, he used to be my client. So, I have to increase the price. Roger would have accepted it casually if the reward sound and the others took out was US dollars. However, they had to take out a mystical item like the dragon bone that could increase one's vitality. So it was no wonder he had raised the price at the last minute. Seeing Roger seriously raise the price, Sound suddenly froze. No, this shouldn't be the case. Didn't they say that he rarely cared about the reward of the commission? Why did he even increase the reward? Sound was originally full of confidence. After all, they had taken out a rare item like the dragon bone. But the current development had wholly exceeded his expectations. Just as Sound was unsure whether he should agree to Roger or not, Murakami, who had been sitting next to him without saying anything, suddenly spoke up. No problem. How much do you want? Another box of dragon bones. All right. After listening to Roger's request, Murakami decided to act like he didn't say a word. I like generous customers like you. After saying that, Roger took out an unused commission scroll from the drawer. Write your commission content and reward, then sign your names. Although he didn't know why Roger suddenly had such a request, Sound and Murakami still wrote the contents on the scroll and signed their names. Mission content: clear out Kingpin's secret stronghold. Mission status: incomplete. Mission reward: 20 ninja coins. The hand's commission smoothly passed the system's judgment, improving Roger's mood. Although he still didn't know which stronghold the hand asked him to clear, it was not difficult for him, even if the hand's target was Kingpin's Chrysler building. Chapter 42: The Dragon's Bone, Kingpin's secret hideous in Queens. This is the specific address. Sound handed a business card with an address to Roger. There was a name written on the business card that Roger did not know, but his attention was focused on the name of the company on the business card. Jester Institute of Paleontological History? What the hell is this place? Seeing the puzzled look on Roger's face, Sound hurriedly explained, Jester Institute of Paleontological History is just a name on the surface, but in fact, this is the secret place where Kingpin conducted some biological research. It is the same type of existence as the Chrysler Building biolab that was attacked a while ago. The hand did not know where he got the news, but from Sound's expression, they should have confirmed the authenticity of this information. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to go in and kill or destroy that place directly? Roger was in a good mood now, so he did not mind if Sound and the others would have any additional requests. We have stolen a batch of dragon bones some time ago. According to our investigation, they are now in Kingpin's Research Institute. If possible, we hope you can bring back the results of their research. Of course, if this is difficult, just kill their researchers or destroy the research facilities from the inside. Although Sound seemed to be seriously introducing the commission's contents, Roger instinctively felt they were hiding something, but he did not expressly point it out. It was usual for an organization like the Hand to have some secrets that could not be revealed. As long as the things they concealed did not affect the commission, Roger could not be bothered with them. No problem. But before we start, I hope you can pay the reward first. Although the Hand did not look like he would go back on their word, Roger still decided to collect the reward in advance. Of course, the rest will be delivered tomorrow. After confirming the rest of the payment, Sound and Murakami left the office. After returning to the car, Sound was confused by Murakami and asked, "Why did you agree to his increment? This is different from what we discussed before. If you don't raise the price, do you want to go to the Research Institute yourself?" Murakami asked back, "But we don't have much dragon bones left. If we give more, we won't have much left. There just aren't many reserves right now." After hearing Murakami's answer, Sound finally fell silent. After Sound and Murakami left the Hall of Affairs, Roger brought the dragon bones back to his home and exchanged them for a toy worth 1 ninja coins from a system. The moment his number of available ninja coins changed from 25 to 24, a set of square-shaped instruments about the width of a suitcase with all kinds of tactics written on it appeared out of thin air on the empty table in front of him. Organic Energy Purification and Separation Instrument. Inventor name: Orochimaru. Roger was not sure if Naruto Universe had this thing. Still, Since the creator was Naruto universe's #1 scientific madman, Orochimaru, the possibility of this set of things existing was very high. When these tools appeared, Roger put all the dragon bones into the organic energy purification and separation instrument and entered his own chakra. Along with the input of chakra, this separation instrument, full of all kinds of strange tactics, suddenly flashed with a burst of not dazzling but slightly strange green light. After continuously injecting chakra for more than 10 minutes, the horrifying green light emitted by this separation instrument finally disappeared. A test tube with the same color liquid emerged from the separation instrument. This color doesn't seem quite right, isn't it? After picking up the test tube, as thick as a finger, and carefully examining it for a few minutes, Roger still couldn't make up his mind to drink it directly. For an average human, this color usually symbolizes the unknown. After struggling for a few minutes, he raised the test tube and drank the liquid. If something were wrong with the system, he would have died in New York a few years ago. With this thought in mind, he drank the liquid that emitted a green light. Although the things that were purified from the dragon bones emitted a strange green light, they were no different from ordinary mineral water. He even wondered if he had drunk it just now. Just as he wondered if Sound had given him a batch of fake dragon bones, an indescribable exuberant life force suddenly emerged. This strong and terrifying life force was running around uncontrollably in his body. However, every time this life force circulated, he felt that his body had become stronger. This situation only lasted for a few minutes before it disappeared. When everything returned to normal, he immediately opened his attribute panel and looked at chakra volume. The number 5 on chakra volumes column kept changing and gradually increased to 8. Chakra volume, level 8. This was the final evaluation given by the system. Seeing that chakra volume, which had not changed for more than a year, had changed again, Roger finally breathed a sigh of relief. He had been worried that his chakra limit was level 5, and now he could finally be at ease. Level 5 was not a small amount for chakra volume, but no one would complain about having too much chakra. If possible, he didn't mind increasing his chakra 1,000-fold more, however. He could only think about it for now. The dragon bones in a suitcase could increase his chakra by 3 levels, and there will still be another suitcase tomorrow, so it should be able to increase his chakra to level 11. Since the hand was willing to take out 2 suitcases of dragon bones for commission, it proved that they must have more dragon bones in their hands. If he could take all the dragon bones in their hands, maybe Roger suddenly felt that the hand, this ninja organization, still had a lot of value. Although several of these thoughts were not very profitable to the hand, all of this could only be carried out after he received the second box of dragon bones and completed the commission. As the hand delivered the dragon bone on time, he drank the second tube of purified green liquid before doing the commission. He didn't know if it was due to the system correcting the bug or the body producing the resistance to the dragon bone. After drinking the second tube of purified dragon bone liquid, Roger's total amount of chakra didn't increase to level 11 as he had planned. Instead, it stopped at level 10. This discovery immediately disappointed him a lot. Chapter 43. Mr. Negative. At first, he thought that he could rely on a large number of dragon bones to improve chakra volume quickly, but according to the current situation, he could at most improve a few more times. Although the effect would become smaller and smaller, no matter what, the dragon bones could still slightly improve chakra volume. Therefore, after Roger completed this task, he found time to visit the hand. When night fell, Roger left the room with Flying Thunder God technique and went directly to the roof of a building in Queens. This was Flying Thunder God's formula closest to the Jester Institute of Paleontological History. After he was sent there, he was only a few blocks away from Jester Institute of Paleontological History. He planned to walk the remaining distance directly. Queens is the largest borough in New York and the second most populous, so there are relatively more people here who use unlawful means to make a living. Of course, the situation here could not be compared to the New York. On the way to the Research Institute, Roger didn't walk on the brightly lit streets, and he specifically chose those rarely seen, gloomy, and old alleys. In this gloomy and old alley, even in the daytime, few people would come, let alone at night. Alone, without any weapons, his body did not look particularly strong. At this time, Roger was like a fat sheep, taking the initiative to enter the hunting area of the wolves. As he expected, when he walked through these small alleys for a few minutes, a group of hooligans who did not look like good people appeared behind him. "Boss, this guy seems to be quite rich. Why don't mug him?" A gangster behind Roger took the initiative to suggest to his boss. "How many times have I told you? We are not robbers. We are just borrowing some money from him." The big black man, who was more than 2 meters tall with a muscular body, scolded the young gangster who proposed. "Do you want to make a move or not? There are still several groups of people waiting in front of us." Just as this group of hooligans was about to take out their weapons to intimidate Roger and borrow some money from him, Roger took the initiative to turn around and come in front of them. "Kid, I don't care who you are. Since you met us today, it can only mean that your luck is not." When this big black man was in the middle of a normal conversation, Roger did not hesitate and directly punch him in the chest, sending him flying. The total amount of chakra increased, but the casting speed did not improve, and the degree of control was similar to before. After this punch, Roger quickly concluded. He deliberately chose these small alleys to find these hooligans to test whether the sudden increase of chakra volume would have any effect on the battle. After directly sending the small leader flying, he spent a few more seconds knocking down the remaining hooligans. Half an hour later, when he left these small alleys, more than 50 hooligans from 6 different gangs were lying behind him. These battles that could not even be regarded as fair did not bring him any burden. It only felt like a practice dummy that allowed him to adapt to the sudden increase in chakra. Looking at the plaque in front of him, Roger used sensing technique to sense the situation in the research institute. The energy state of this person was bizarre. Most people in the research institute were in their normal energy state, except they were either strong or weak. However, one of them was shrouded in strange energy he had never seen before. Interesting. Roger thought that the commission this time would be boring, but now it seemed that he knew why the hand had not personally attacked this place. There's a valid reason for that. The hand wouldn't have rewarded him with dragon bones if not for this. Gathering his chakra at his feet, Roger crossed the several meters high wall of the research institute and quickly entered the research institute. When he arrived at the hall on the first floor of the research institute, the security guards finally noticed his arrival. Without any questions, after seeing his figure, the security guards immediately took out their pistols and pulled the trigger without thinking. Was it the first time an unfamiliar visitor was killed? This level of vigilance had far exceeded the defense level of a typical research institute. It seemed that Kingpin felt great importance to this institute. Using the body flickering technique to avoid the bullet attack, Roger did not spend much effort dealing with the security personnel in the hall. The moment the gunshot rang out, the entire Research Institute security system seemed to have been activated. Ear-piercing alarms rang out in every corner of the Research Institute. At the same time, teams of fully armed security personnel quickly rushed to where Roger was. "There are intruders outside. Aren't you going to deal with them?" A man who only has 2 colors, black and white, like in a photo negative, said to the man next to him, "My mission is to prevent anyone from entering this lab. The other things are not within the scope of my mission." The man who answered was wearing a skin-tight suit with a circle on the helmet that looked like a bull's eye. If Roger were present, he would recognize this man in tight blue clothes. This person was none other than Kingpin's trusted assassin, Bullseye. The person next to the Bullseye, who only has 2 colors of black and white, as in the photo negative, was the leader of the Inner Demons, Mr. Negative. Although Mr. Negative was not as famous as Kingpin, he was also an important figure in New York's underworld. More importantly, Mr. Negative had a unique negative energy that could instantly catalyze the negative emotions of the Standard, allowing the closest relatives, best friends, and beloved to kill each other. The strange energy that Roger had sensed before was the energy of Mr. Negative. At this time, Roger still did not know this. He was now on his way to the basement first floor of the Research Institute. After the alarm sounded, all the elevators in the Research Institute were locked entirely, and all the electronic control doors were closed immediately. Roger did not foolishly wait for the security guards to arrive. After figuring out the structure of the research institute, he quickly knocked down the security guards in front of him and forced himself into the basement first floor of the research institute. The research institute had 3 floors, 1 floor on the ground and 2 underground floors. And Roger's current destination was a laboratory on the basement's 2nd floor. The laboratory guarded by the Bullseye and the Mr. Negative Chapter 44. Mr. Negative positively dead, although the security personnel arranged by Kingpin and the Institute were not insufficient. They were only ordinary people. Relying on his elusive speed and simple combat skills, Roger only used an ordinary kunai to completely break through all the defense power of the 1st floor of the Institute, smoothly arriving at the 2nd floor of the Institute. Compared to the 1st floor of the basement, the 2nd floor did not have many differences. The only difference was that the combat personnel on the 2nd floor of the basement were far more numerous than on the 1st floor. If this weren't the Research Institute, Roger would have thought he had arrived at a terrorist secret base. When his figure had just arrived on the 2nd floor of the basement, various types of bullets flew toward him like lightning. It was fine with automatic rifles and pistols. Still, when he dodged the shots of this security personnel, Roger even saw this security personnel take out the RPG rocket launchers that were only used when destroying fortifications and armored vehicles. Were these guys crazy? Aren't you afraid that the explosion will cause a chain reaction and bury the entire 2nd floor? Boom! 2 consecutive rockets hit the spot where Roger was standing just now. A huge explosion resounded throughout the 2nd floor. Roger originally did not intend to use ninjutsu on these ordinary security personnel, but these crazy people forced him to change his mind. If he continued to let these guys attack, it was only a matter of time before the 2nd floor of the basement was buried. Temporary paralysis technique. Body flickering technique. There was almost no gap between them. Roger instantly used 2 ninjutsu, the temporary paralysis technique and body flickering technique. He arrived in front of these security guards like a flash of lightning. The kunai in his hand was like the sickle of death, cutting through the throat of these security guards. When he swung the blood stained by the kunai, dozens of corpses were scattered everywhere behind him. Your men are about to be slaughtered. Are you still not going to make a move? Mr. Negative glanced at the surveillance screen next to him and asked casually, "They're not my people. My task is to prevent anyone from entering this laboratory. The other things have nothing to do with me." In front of Bullseye was a busy laboratory. This laboratory was like a completely different parallel space. No matter what happened outside, the researchers on the inner side did not stop their research. More than 10 researchers in white coats injected the serum in their hands into the white mice and then observed the state of each white mouse. On a table in the laboratory, there were more than a dozen white bones, and many bottles of liquid of different colors were next to these bones. "Since you don't intend to fight, let me go out and play." After saying that, Mr. Negative walked out without looking back. The reason why he came here was only because of Kingpin's invitation. As for what Kingpin was doing here, he was not particularly concerned about it. He was only concerned about one thing, and that was what Kingpin had promised to help him destroy Hammerhead's gang. After cleaning up those crazy security guards, Roger smoothly arrived at the basement's core area on the 2nd floor. Then he met Mr. Negative, who had just come out. When he saw Mr. Negative, Roger was slightly stunned. After carefully recalling for a few seconds, he finally remembered the memories of Mr. Negative. Although Mr. Negative was also a supervillain, he was a minor villain. In Roger's memory, besides a bit of conflict with Spider-Man, Mr. Negative was no different from an ordinary gang leader. After seeing Roger, Mr. Negative did not say a word. He directly used negative energy and transformed it into an energy sword, then waved it a few times in the direction of Roger. Mr. Negative seemed to be casually swinging his sword. Still, every time he swung his sword, he would draw out negative energy to attack Roger, just like the energy sword described in the Eastern wuxia novels. For Roger, who could even dodge bullets, it was not difficult to avoid this negative energy. Just as he easily avoided the attacks of these negative energy, intense negative energy suddenly burst out from Mr. Negative's body. With Mr. Negative as the center, this negative energy quickly attacked in all directions, forming a 360-degree attack. The destructive power of this negative energy was not exceptional, but it was swift. Roger used body flickering technique several times in a row, only to get out of the attack range of this negative energy. After discovering that the person in front of him was Mr. Negative, Roger watched his every move. Turning negative energy into a weapon was nothing. What was genuinely terrifying about Mr. Negative was that his negative energy could instantly activate the negative emotions of the target mark, causing a kind and orderly person to turn into a chaotic and evil person instantly. Although Roger did not think he was a good person, he did not want negative emotions triggered by Mr. Negative's negative energy. Water gun technique. Without any hesitation, Roger directly raised his right hand and shot a shot at Mr. Negative. Although negative energy was Mr. Negative's ultimate ability, his strength was not to be underestimated. Facing the sudden display of the water gun technique, Mr. Negative leaped forward after seeing it, avoiding the liquid bullets shot by water gun technique at him. At the same time, he swung a few swords at Roger. Before the negative energy hit Roger, Roger's figure disappeared in the hallway. The negative energy hit the wall behind him, leaving a few obvious cracks. Just when Mr. Negative thought that Roger had chosen to retreat, Roger's figure suddenly appeared at the end of the hallway and charged toward him like lightning. Relying on body flickering technique, Roger instantly crossed dozens of meters and arrived only 2 meters away from Mr. Negative. However, before he could continue forward, Mr. Negative once again released negative energy from his body. Bang! Swept by the negative energy, Roger suddenly turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared. Before Mr. Negative could react, another Roger rushed out from the end of the hallway and arrived about 2 meters in front of him. This time, Mr. Negative did not continue to explode with negative energy. Instead, he parried him with a negative energy sword in his hand. Bang! Roger, hit by the negative energy sword, turned into smoke and disappeared again. Before he could retract his negative energy sword, the third Roger rushed out from the hallway and arrived 2 meters in front of him again. Without any hesitation, Mr. Negative once again erupted with negative energy, causing this Roger to turn into smoke and disappear. In a short time, he exploded with negative energy twice in a row, immediately causing him to become exhausted. However, at this time, the fourth Roger rushed out from the hallway again. Chapter 45, Bullseye. After experiencing the attacks of the previous Roger, Mr. Negative had a rough understanding of Roger's tactics. Are you planning to use this method to deplete the negative energy in my body? Aren't you looking down on me a little too much? Facing the fourth Roger, who rushed over, Mr. Negative did not explode the negative energy in his body. He just raised the negative energy sword in his hand, intending to rely on his swordsmanship to deal with this Roger who rushed over. Just as Mr. Negative was about to slash Roger into a cloud of smoke like before, he suddenly saw a pair of blood-red eyes. Looking at those blood-red eyes with 3 tomo, which were completely unlike the ones that ordinary people could possess, Mr. Negative suddenly found that Roger, who was rushing towards him, had disappeared. Not only that, the negative energy sword in his hand and all the negative energy in his body had also disappeared. In an instant, he turned back into a normal person. Just as Mr. Negative was puzzled, he glanced around and found that he was not in Kingpin's research institute, but an endless ocean. What was going on? Before he could figure out what was going on, he saw a slow, silent gold mountain freighter floating on the surface. Looking at this strange and familiar scene in front of him, Mr. Negative felt as if he had returned to his former gang, the Snakehead. Back in the day, he was just an ordinary Snakehead member who had no name, no ability, and no dignity. On the second floor of Kingpin's research institute, Mr. Negative, who held a sword of negative energy in his hand, seemed to have suddenly lost consciousness and stood motionless. He could not recover from that strange illusion until Roger used the kunai in his hand to slit his throat. Mr. Negative fell heavily to the ground, and black blood flowed out of his throat, unlike an average human's blood. After a few minutes of his death, this Mr. Negative, who only had 2 colors, black and white, returned to his normal appearance. The blood on the ground also became an average human's bright red blood. Along with the death of Mr. Negative, the negative energy in his body also disappeared, and everything related to negative energy also returned to its original appearance. Unfortunately, Mr. Negative's negative energy was born from the comprehensive experiment of medicine. Otherwise, Roger could try to use Sharingan's ability to replicate his ability to conjure weapons. To avoid Mr. Negative's negative emotions catalyzed by negative energy, he used the ability of the Sharingan for the first time in battle. Looking at the current situation, the Sharingan was very useful. Looking at Mr. Negative, who had lost his life, Roger continued to walk towards his destination. Now, there was only Bullseye in front of him. As long as he dealt with Bullseye and destroyed this place, the Hand's commission could be declared complete. Through the surveillance video in the room, Bullseye witnessed the scene of Mr. Negative being killed by Roger. When he saw Mr. Negative standing still and letting Roger slit his throat with a kunai, a stern expression appeared on Bullseye's face. Although Bullseye had never fought with Roger, he was not unfamiliar with Roger. It could even be said that he was a little familiar with him. No one knew how Roger had appeared. The only thing that could be traced back was that he suddenly appeared in New York 3 years ago. On the surface, he was a private detective, but in reality, he was a ninja and began accepting all kinds of commissions. As an assassin, Bullseye saw an aura of the same kind as him from Roger. It was just that Roger was different from him. Roger also grasped all kinds of strange ninjutsu. Roger had almost completely wiped out the security guards of the second floor of the basement. If no one stopped him again, it won't be long before he can come to this laboratory. After seriously thinking about it, Bullseye finally left the laboratory and took the various weapons he had prepared. Rather than letting Roger come here smoothly, it was better to choose the battlefield outside. This way, even if he was no match, there were more routes to retreat. As for whether he could stop Roger, Bullseye was not too confident. However, after watching the battle between Roger and Mr. Negative, Bullseye found that Roger was not very good at long-distance combat. If not for this, he would not have needed to use strange clones to sprint again and again, and long-range attacks happened to be the field he was best at. Therefore, before leaving the laboratory, Bullseye had already formulated a tactic to use his best throwing ability to deal with Roger from a distance. Just as Roger was about to reach the core laboratory on the second floor of the basement, a few daggers flashed at him from a strange angle. The flying speed of these daggers naturally could not compare to the bullets, but their accuracy was far higher than the bullets fired by the security guards. Clang! 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 The kunai in Roger's hand instantly hit these daggers and bounced them all away. However, as these daggers were sent flying, many different things flew toward him. Among them were daggers, darts, metal round bullets, irregular iron nails, and even a few poker cards. In terms of lethality, these things were incomparable to bullets. However, the angles of their attacks were extremely tricky, and there was even a feeling of being chained. Roger did not try to deflect the weapons, but directly used body flickering technique to retreat. As Roger disappeared, the weapons either hit the floor or the wall. It seemed that he had already predicted Roger's retreat. Just as he stabilized his body, a few more daggers attacked him. Body flickering technique. Roger's figure disappeared once again. However, this time, he did not continue to retreat. Instead, he chose to move forward. Although the attacker had not appeared, Roger already knew who had attacked him. No one else could have such a precise throwing ability other than Bullseye. After crossing a distance of dozens of meters through body flickering technique, he finally saw Bullseye, who was about to disappear at the corner of the hallway. When he saw Bullseye, Bullseye also noticed him. Immediately, several daggers attacked him. After throwing out these daggers, Bullseye's figure disappeared from Roger again. After dodging the daggers thrown by Bullseye, Roger did not immediately chase after Bullseye. Instead, he immediately used Shadow Clone Technique. After Shadow Clone Technique appeared, Roger first let Shadow Clone Technique chase after Bullseye. At the same time, he took out a handful of Flying Thunder God formula and fiercely inserted it into the ground. Then he returned to the office through Flying Thunder God Technique. Chapter 46, Bullseye on Bullseye. After returning to the office, Roger took out a backpack he had not opened for a long time and looked at the things in it. Inside this backpack, there were 100 short swords. These short swords were specially made for him by someone, but after customizing them, they were left idle and never used again. But today, after seeing Bullseye's superb throwing ability, he suddenly had an idea. There were exchange icons about the sword technique on the system's exchange page, but he had never exchanged for this ability. Although exchanging from a system could save him a lot of practice time, the system's price for these skills was not lower than high-level ninjutsu, so he had never exchanged for it. He is trained to perfection for many aspects of a ninja, but his hand sword skills are still a nasty mess. After picking up the backpack filled with swords in his hands, he went straight back to the second floor of Jester Institute of Paleontological History through Flying Thunder God technique. After putting away the Flying Thunder God formula on the ground, he used Sensing Technique's technique to sense Bullseye's location and then ran towards Bullseye. At this time, Bullseye was being chased up and down by his shadow clone technique, throwing all kinds of weapons in his hands. Under the premise of preparation, it was not particularly difficult to avoid the weapons thrown by Bullseye. The tricky thing was to avoid these weapons without getting injured and, at the same time, close the distance between the two sides. Although Roger's shadow clone technique had the same fighting skills as him, these shadow clone techniques were not himself after all. Bullseye successfully consumed Roger's 2 shadow clone techniques through several chain attacks. Just as he planned to eliminate the remaining 2 shadow clone technique in one go, he saw Roger carrying a backpack. Looking at the backpack that came out of nowhere, Bullseye had a bad feeling. Before thinking about it, Roger removed the remaining 2 shadow clone technique and pulled a few short sword from his backpack. Bullseye did not know Roger's purpose, but after seeing shadow clone technique disappear, he threw several daggers at Roger without hesitation. At this time, Roger had opened his Sharingan and watched Bullseye's every move, including his throwing movements, his throwing power, and his throwing methods. When observing Bullseye with his Sharingan, Roger did not forget to dodge those daggers. After dodging these menacing daggers, he imitated Bullseye's method and threw the sword in his hand. When Roger threw the sword in his hand, a strange feeling flashed through Bullseye's heart. But this feeling quickly disappeared. The sword in Roger's hand flew towards Bullseye at a breakneck speed and then perfectly flew past Bullseye, not causing him any harm. Bullseye initially thought that Roger was like him, possessing extraordinary throwing skills, but reality proved that he was overthinking. This was completely lame throwing technique. How could this kind of spinning dart be thrown like a dagger? This was awful. Just as Bullseye was about to mock Roger's throwing skills, he suddenly thought of something. This kind of throwing technique, this kind of forceful method, this kind of attack trajectory, isn't this same action I did when I threw the dagger after thinking about this? The contempt on Bullseye's face suddenly disappeared. This is impossible. How could he learn my attack just by looking at it once? This is absolutely impossible. It seemed to cheer him up, but it also proved that his attack method could not be so easily imitated. Bullseye took out a dart similar to the sword in his hand. Pew, pew, pew. Without hesitation, the 3 darts in Bullseye's hand shot toward Roger like lightning, targeting his forehead, throat, and heart. Roger again dodged the darts that Bullseye shot at him and then took out 3 short swords. Almost as if history was repeating itself, Roger threw out 3 handheld swords at lightning speed, targeting Bullseye's forehead, throat, and heart. Looking at Roger's movements and methods that were almost like copying and pasting, Bullseye's face was full of disbelief. Even so, he dodged the sword in Roger's hand and ran away without looking back. Roger would not let Bullseye leave just like that. He quickly used body flickering technique to chase after him. Although Bullseye did not turn around, he could clearly feel that Roger was not far behind him. Damn it, let's go all out. Sensing that Roger was getting closer and closer, Bullseye finally gave up the idea of running away and took out the throwing weapons he had prepared. This time, he did not deliberately choose the darts. Instead, he casually picked up a few weapons and threw them at Roger. Facing Bullseye's attack, Roger did not dodge. Instead, he took out the same number of handheld swords. He did not continue to imitate Bullseye's movements. Instead, he threw out these handheld swords according to the skills he had just mastered. Clang, 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 clang. The sword in his hand and the weapon that Bullseye threw out collided, making a crisp sound, and then they bounced off each other. Seeing the scene in front of him, Bullseye instantly understood why Kingpin stopped him from looking for trouble with Roger. Was this guy a normal human with this kind of terrifying imitation ability? Bullseye didn't know how to describe Roger in front of him. He thought that his innate throwing talent was a gift from the heavens. But now, he began to doubt this seriously. It was only a few exchanges, but he imitated his throwing ability to the same. This was a friggin' cheat. If not for their differences, Bullseye wanted to ask Roger how he did it. Under Roger's deliberate action, Bullseye was never caught up by him. Instead, he continued to chase after him.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.